Hello and welcome into the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. We are moving on to the first round of the League of Legends Fall Invitational. We saw Boise State, the winners of the Mountain West, which them alongside Nevada bought them a spot in the round of 30. Boise State taking on CU Boulder. The Broncos, the 4th seed. The Buffaloes are the 29th seed. So it should be a very good game. Excited to see how the Boise Mountain West. I am Michael Fish Fisher, going to be joined by Lisa Jolly Mulhouse for all of the League of Legends action tonight. Jolly, how are you doing as we kick off the first round of this tournament?
I'm spectacular. I'm not there. I'm here somewhere. Looks like we got a little cross interference. We're trying to get that figured out. Hey,
there we go.
I'm stoked. Boise State clearly feeling great, going undefeated as we've previously seen in these games. So going up against CU Boulder today, an exciting match as always. Boise State just riding this high, likely into hopefully for them another victory.
Yeah, it will be really interesting to see. As we mentioned, Boise State won the Mountain West. CU Boulder was a top 10 finished in the West region, which qualified them for this 32-team tournament. We'll see the bottom 16 teams in the bracket, who Boise State will most likely play if they advance here in a little bit. But it's going to be very exciting. As we mentioned, Nevada, they'll be playing NC State at the same time. If you are interested in the other Mountain West program, we'll keep tabs on that best we can. But I'm really excited to see how Boise State plays because it was a little bit sloppy against Nevada in the grand finals. They lost game 1, and then it was a nail-biter in game 2, and then they absolutely ran down the hammer in game number 3. So a little bit of vulnerability shown by Boise State, but when this team's at their A game, they're going to be really, really hard to beat.
And that's kind of maybe the way that they needed to go into that is with a little bit of a lift off the gas, and then as you feel more comfortable with the compositions, with the matchups, having these two newer players, Aqua Ethug now, and Ascent there in the mid lane, so the new jungle and mid laner who have been really dominating and helping the rest of the team congeal into something that we love to see from these guys. So taking it slow to start, usually a good way to go, and then ramp things up as that confidence increases.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Ascent and Ethug have put in a ton of work for Boise State. It's going to be interesting to see how the Broncos handle Ascent because he is the mid laner for Boise State, but against Nevada, he was rotated up into the top lane twice on the Mordekaiser. They put Red Hots in the mid lane on the Lulu. So I'll be really curious to see if it is going to be Red Hots on something that is more supportive and defensive, and if he goes back to that mid lane that we've seen him in, and if Ascent goes in the top lane, or how the Broncos want to handle that. As we see for the College League of Legends Fall Invitational, it is 32 teams, single elimination, seeded from conference play. As we mentioned, the Broncos are the number 4 seed, and we take a look at some of the very strong contenders in this tournament. UC Irvine, the number 1 overall seed, but you've also got schools like Alabama, Ohio State, UCLA, Penn State. So there is a lot of big-name programs in this, and a Bronco top 4 finish with them being seeded number 4 would be excellent for Boise State. So they've got a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and against CU Boulder, they're going to have to come out swinging here to make sure they don't have a first-round upset.
And a team that we've seen before but really don't get to play much. This is a great opportunity as well from this portion of the tournament here for the Mountain West Conference. We're used to playing teams like UNR. We're used to playing UNLV. So can we take a quick look at that overall bracket as well?
As we see some of the teams there, that is the 16 of the teams that are in it. There are 32 overall, but we see Boise State will play the winner of Purdue and Hawkeye Community College should the Broncos advance past Colorado here tonight. And then you see on the other side of the bracket, Nevada, if they win, most likely going to have to play the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, UC Irvine, who's playing Minnesota. So the Wolfpack going to have their work cut out for them if they want a rematch down the line with Boise State. But right now the Broncos' focus is on CU Boulder, the Buffaloes, and the Broncos kicking off with our draft here very shortly. And like I said, I mean, we've seen Ethug and Ascent dominate, so I would not be surprised if that is the MO for Boise State, is put Ascent on and Ethug on champions that they can hard carry on and let the rest of Boise State be right behind them, because we saw Ethug make some crazy daring plays against Nevada, and thanks to Red Hots and thanks to the rest of the team, he was able to survive 90% of the time.
That's how I felt about, honestly, the majority of games that we have seen throughout this conference. And Ethug doing a spectacular job, as well as Ascent. We saw the Rumble get through the 1 or 2 times, and clearly that was a mistake. So hopefully these teams have learned their lessons on not allowing that Rumble to get through for Ascent. We can guarantee you. And in that, he can actually flex that as well with the swaps between Red Hots and Ascent there. So just spectacular play from everyone, and really, really competent in being able to maneuver around these opposing teams' flexible adjustments towards their play style. And with the constantly changing meta, Boise State is making their way to adjusting it themselves, creating a little bit of a meta to try to get a bit of an underhanded play, or an overhanded play, I suppose, on some of these teams in such an important competition.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see how the Broncos want to play tonight. Looking at Colorado's lineup, their number one player is one Tyler down in the bot lane. He's a top 500 player. Actually, unfortunately, recently just deranked out of Challenger, but he's still a high Grandmaster player. So I'll be curious to see if Ethug focuses down in that lane or if Boise State just tries to avoid him and put the rest of the map ahead, because this is the first time in a while that we've seen a very talented bot lane against Boise State. I mean, against Nevada, it was their jungler who was sort of their main threat. So I'm really curious to see how Boise State handles a very top-tier player for the Buffaloes in the bot lane and how they want to play around that and how much support Goblin and Dean get down in the bot lane.
Yeah, there has been a lot of consistency for Boise State and in the general meta, at least for this ELO, of putting a lot of your plays towards the top side, towards that jungle side focus. And so for the adjustment to potentially be towards the bottom side, we've seen just a spectacular job of Boise State's bottom lane staying very resilient. It's never really a heavy sway. So I can assume that Boise State will try to at least remove a little bit of pressure towards the bottom lane, but man, they've been doing so well with Red Hots in the top and things on like the Malphite and then Ascent as well, that top control of the map can lead to an overall control depending on how far ahead that bottom lane may end up going. Master last season, as you mentioned, as well as LoL in the top lane, top laner, yeah, maybe, is also Master last season. So some really, really high tier players that Boise State's going to be going up against today.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, though, is going to be on Ethug as we get right into Doc's keys of the game. And there it is, bullet number one, engaged champion for Ethug. It was all Graves and Lilia last game against Nevada, and he definitely engaged. We're talking 2 or 3 tower dives at points, 2 or 3 towers deep, and it usually worked out. Play for those objectives, stay tanky, and then press your lead. It's all brought to you by Count, whose Identity Trust Global Network delivers real-time fraud prevention, account protection, and enables a personalized customer experience for more than 9,000 leading brands and payment providers thanks to their award-winning Identity Trust Global Network AI, which gives you 32 annual interactions that it analyzes every year to make sure you stay safe online. So if you want more information, go check them out at count.com, KOUNT.com. Fish and Jolly here for the first round of the College Fall League of Legends Tournament. CLOL round number 1. Boise State taking on Colorado here, momentarily about to hop into the draft for game number 1. As we see Red Hots there in the arena, Goblin flanking him there as well. You've got the computer shields on, the face masks on. You've also got Dean sitting there as well. So slowly working their way to getting most of the team up on the stage. Just missing a couple of them, though Ethug would have to make quite the trip to get down into the arena. So he probably won't be there for a while, but it's nice to see the 3 players that we've seen for a long time on this Bronco team here in the arena ready to go.
Oh, and Ethug has enough of a presence online that while it would be nice to have him in studio there, he's carrying hard enough from where he is at home right now. We're going to start things out. It looks like Boise State on the blue side and CU Boulder on the red side. No big surprise. CU Boulder is going to start out with that Rumble ban, and Boise State pretty quick on the Samira as well as the Gangplank.
Yeah, Samir, a very strong champion. As we talked about, one Tyler, he's played it a lot recently. He's got a 73% win rate, though. Has been a little bit rough of recently, but still a very, very strong champion, as most of the new releases are. There's the Kindred ban as well, something that Carson, the jungler for CU Boulder, has been playing quite a bit. And meanwhile, the Hecarim ban, something that we've talked about a ton for Ethug, but we didn't see it much against Nevada. Would not be shocked if the Buffaloes throw maybe a Lilia or a Graves ban, or potentially maybe even a Cassiopeia ban, but it actually will be Nidalee. It's something that we haven't really seen Ethug play a lot. He's played it in his solo queue games, but he hasn't really played it on stream, so an interesting ban there to round up ban phase number 1.
Nidalee is also very, very strong, and another good flex pick that Boise State can potentially bring in. Obviously, right now, main in the jungle, but hey, you called the Lilia ban, and Boise State certainly taking advantage of the lack of that one. First pick by them is going to lock that Lilia in.
Yeah, be curious to see what Carson wants to play in response. We saw against Nevada in the grand finals. It was Lilia Graves all 3 games, and it was the Graves who was victorious all 3 times. So He's a very powerful jungler. If you've been watching Worlds at all, you've seen a ton of Graves, so it wouldn't shock me if he's the pick. Right now, they are going to pick that Lucian up, who's been a constant presence in the mid lane for a lot of different teams, so you'd have to think that's what they're going to want to run. Or maybe flex him down into the bot lane. He hasn't been there in a while, but he's still an 80 carry at heart.
Oh, yeah. He can be run very well, especially if you get a solid matchup, but it is a very risky pick to select Lucian going into the bottom lane top. However, the Ornn is going to be the next lock-in, so clearly CU Boulder is going for some flex picks here. They want Boise State to be confused on exactly where these champions are going. It might be just up front, but Boise State is a big player with those flex picks, so maybe a little taste of their own medicine, as the Ashe is going to be the second lock-in here for the Broncos.
Ashe very safe. We saw Goblin put in some insane work on that champion last week against Nevada, so I'm definitely going to be excited to see it. Of course, you got the Ashe arrow that's going to force probably one Tyler to bring cleanse on anything that he wants to be a part of, because if you don't have cleanse, you're just going to eat that Ashe arrow to the face and immediately be taken down. And then the Camille pick in, you have to think for Red Hots, we've seen him from time to time, but he's going to be on that damage champion, so I'll be curious to see what we're going to see in the mid lane. Might be setting up for more of a tanky mid laner and a support.
Hopefully a slightly tanky mid laner and support, yes, just based on the fact that there is an Ornn on CU Boulder right now. Lots of engage and initiation, and a lot of damage to actually back up the tankiness that he has available. So a good response to have the heal going into that, but you also want to allow that initiation as well. And, you know, at this point, we may be looking at the Lucian mid lane instead of Lucian top. That's kind of what I'm assuming. That, or you know what, these guys can do something absolutely insane. When you get to really high ranks, and in collegiate especially, lots of flex picks just based on people taking out a champion that is incredibly strong, that they are very, very familiar with, and that the enemy team may not know how to deal with or how to counter pick against with those flexes. So I like the number of picks we got here. Braum ban is going to be the next one in the second phase, the first ban there from CU Boulder. And just like you were talking about, probably looking towards more tanky champions. Likely we'll see another tank banned out.
Yeah, we see the Karthus band out there, so the Kindred and Karthus, something that the Colorado junglers played a lot. That was actually the champion I thought Boise State might put in the bot lane, was that Galio, but he has been banned out, so trying to get rid of as many tanks as possible, and it will be Boise State who will ban out the Morgana. Dean was absolutely incredible on that against Nevada, but it is not going to see the light of day. I would not be shocked if we see Ascent on that Nautilus potentially to make up for the lack of the tank in the top lane, but I'll be curious to see where Boise State wants to go here.
Yeah, there are a lot of options, and at the same time, a lot of risky potential plays to make here. The Graves is going to be locking so much damage on this red side from CU Boulder. It is very possible for Boise State to respond with the current competition that they have, but like I said, a little bit of that frontline engage will certainly help them, and that is going to do it. Malphite for Red Hots, I would assume, on this one. And you know what? This is the kind of proposition of matchup where you just kind of say, hey, we want this match in lane, so Red Hots, you go down mid. You know, you send Ascent up top. You kind of adjust and tweak the lanes, because I have no idea how this one is going to round itself out.
Yeah, when I saw the Camille picked in, I was like, okay, that's probably what Red Hots is going to be on. But yeah, as you mentioned, with the Malphite coming in, it might be something where Red Hots goes there. But it also, I mean, maybe, no, I was going to say maybe it's Malphite support, but that's not the case. So it is going to be the Thresh lock-in for Boise State. So quite the interesting composition. I'll be curious to see if it's Red Hots or Ascent on the Camille and who is on the Malphite. You'd have to think that it's probably Red Hots on the Malphite because he's played it so well in the past. But I've never seen Ascent on the Camille, so that would be a very, very off-the-wall pick for Boise State as we get the last pick for the Buffaloes here, looking for their support, and it's going to be the Karma pick in at the very end for the Buffaloes.
So they are working on that long-range damage, that bursting down, and then the Ornn later on for the frontline engage. The ultimate as well, Call of Forge God, is going to be very pivotal in terms of landing really, really good engages on this team. But Boise State does have a lot of counter ability. You can get that Ornn locked down so he's not able to hit back the Call of the Forge God. You just get the one pop-up towards his direction. And then a lot of damage as well coming from Boise State there. So just a lot of opportunity for everyone to be aggressive, and that's what I'm going to expect from this game. Very early first blood, very early movement from both of these junglers is what I'm expecting for sure.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how this Graves and Lilia matchup plays. As we talked about against Nevada, that is what eThug and Obvi ran 3 straight games in a row. And the Graves ended up always being the one who won the matchup. So I'll be really curious to see with eThug opting for the first pick Lilia over the Graves if he just feels more confident this time going into the Colorado jungler or what, because it has not been a good thing for Lilia on the Boise Straight streams at least, seeing the Lilia into the Graves. So I'll be really curious how eThug wants to play this early.
Luckily, eThug seems to demolish on this Lilia, is pretty versatile in the type of play that you can run with her, and a lot of aggression is what both of these teams are going for. So while they will likely find each other out, I think a lot of the focus is not necessarily going to be on shutting down the opposing jungler, but really trying to provide as much lane presence as possible for the rest of these guys to get snowballed forward, and also to prevent that bottom lane from getting too far ahead. I can assume that Jhin and Karma are going to be going in the bot side, and that is just a ton of burst. That is a lot of damage from very far away. So Boise State has their work cut out for them on this one.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see for the Boise State team how they want to handle this Camille and Malphite, because those are 2 traditional top laners. And, I mean, we've seen Ascent on the Mordekaiser. He was absolutely incredible, as it is Boise State versus CU Boulder. First round of the C-LOL Invitational after the teams qualified through their various tournaments. So I'll be really curious to see how Boise State wants to handle that, but hopefully to give us a little bit of a more perspective on the 2 drafts here for game number 1 is going to be Glovely joining us. So, Glovely, why don't you give us your takeaways here from what you saw between the 2 teams in terms of the picks?
So, looking at the 2 team setups, the immediate thing that stuck out to me is Boise State's built very much a pick-oriented composition. Looking at some of the champions they've got here, Ashe, Camille, Malphite, and Thresh are all really great at jumping on top of a single target and blowing them up. They can also, of course, layer that crowd control on top of each other for sort of a single target lockdown with the Ashe arrow, the unstoppable force, and, of course, Thresh's death sentence. On the other side, Colorado, the Buffaloes have built themselves a very team fight-oriented composition. They play that sort of front-to-back with the Ord up in the front lane with their marksmen behind. Very much a typical team fight scenario. So there are a couple of champions that I want to highlight. You were talking about the Lilia Graves matchup. These 2 are champions that we've seen go head-to-head with each other multiple times recently, and that always goes in favor of the Graves. And I think the reasoning behind this is that Graves is a very powerful early game duelist. He's got a very easy clear. Lilia, on the other hand, struggles a little bit. She's much more mana dependent than Graves is in terms of her ability to deal damage. And as a result, she takes a little bit more time to get rolling than Graves does. So if the 2 of them end up meeting in the jungle, Graves has a much easier time getting ahead.
And Glovely, talk to us a little bit about why do you think it's going to be different? Because, I mean, I talked about it a little bit. Graves won all 3 of these matchups against Nevada. Do you think that it's going to be still Graves' favorite? I know you mentioned once he gets ahead, he can start rolling. Do you think that eThug's going to have to make more plays, or do you just think that maybe it was a different jungler for Nevada and it's going to be maybe a different outcome between the jungler matchup?
I think it could very well be a different outcome. I haven't seen a whole lot of Colorado's Boulder's jungler playing themselves. I don't know how aggressive they're going to be. If you really want to capitalize on this matchup, I do think Graves needs to be on the ball. So you need to try and find those early engages. That's not really something that you can pull off very easily with the crowd control that you've got. Maybe with the Jhin Karma, you could rig something with a couple of roots. But I do think that particularly that Braum takeaway was very important, because that would have given them the early game they needed to very easily get Graves into the jungle with the crowd control for an early game gank. So I think definitely the Graves has the advantage in this matchup, but I don't think that Boulder has what they need to really push that super early on. So it's going to be very much a matter of tracking the 2 junglers, figuring out where is Graves, where is Lilia, how do I avoid running into you?
It is interesting, I think, as well, that the Lilia was the first pick there for Boise State, and yet the Graves was not in that first ban phase. Knowing how well the Graves know Lilia there, having that left available maybe means that Boise State is a little bit more confident in this pick, as Graves is incredibly powerful on his own anyway, let alone into this matchup.
Yeah, I think, we've seen eThug like to first pick his jungler, so maybe he just wants to put all of the pressure on. But yeah, you do make a good point, Jolly, where it was interesting that with Graves available, they really, took away the Nidalee, which, like we said, something that Ethug's played in solo queue. He hasn't really played it much in games on stream for Boise State. So, yeah, it was interesting that maybe it's just something he feels more confident on, but I'll be really curious to see because I thought his Graves play, if not extremely aggro, was really good. So the fact he picked Lilia is going to be interesting to me, as we do see it is Ascent on Malphite and it is Red Hots on the Camille. So not kind of something that I was expecting here, but it'll be interesting to see how he handles that into the Lucian.
I think it also depended, like I said, who went in which lane. They have the ability to easily swap. Ascent and Red Hots have done it before. We just mentioned with the University of Nevada Reno matchup that we had before. Went successfully for them, and they are certainly capable of doing so. Red Hots being the last mid laner before for Boise State, but they're sticking with the comp that works. We have seen Red Hots on the Camille. We've seen him on the Malphite a lot more as of late, but still a very strong Camille and very good into this Ward, who is obviously in the top. Red Hots getting already some nice poke and a pretty decent amount of pressure there on the top side.
And we saw Ethug go down to his Krugs. Usually against Nevada, he liked to go invade. As we see some damage going to come out onto Ascent, press the attack is going to be popped. So he is playing a little bit more passive this time. We do see that the blue buff is warded for both Boise State and CU Boulders. They're going to know when Ethug arrives there as a hook, unfortunately, on a Night Raven going to miss. Root's going to hit onto Dean. She could be able to disengage. Force shot available for one Tyler, but he's going to use it on a minion. Boise State's going to survive any huge poke damage.
And that's kind of what I was talking about before the game started. I mentioned the fact that I really don't see as much invasion, especially from Boise State, but just in this game in general, it feels like they're going to want to get a lot of pressure on these lanes as quickly as possible, get that gold lead on plate as soon as they can. And so by Boise State being a little bit safer there, Ethug staying within the own jungle is likely safer, especially once you encounter that Graves there, you are going to go down. You don't have the ability to escape from him, unless, you get the sleep down. They are level 3 now, but a little bit more of a risky move. CU Boulder has a lot of pressure in this bottom side. No big surprise there, but Dean is on his favorite champion. Keep that one in mind.
See the flash play is going to come, get the flash for one Tyler. Hook's going to land onto Night Raven, but there's no follow-up for Boise State. Root's going to miss on Dean. He's going to take a little bit of extra damage from the Karma Explosion, but he's able to disengage to a very aggro play for Boise State. Unfortunately, only getting one Tyler's flash, so he's still going to have the cleanse available, and the Broncos now going to be forced to farm another turret.
And the flash expended by Dean to engage on that. We saw the flash into the flay and then the death sentence to follow it up, which had it hit one Tyler, may have ended up working a lot better for Boise State, but still the amount of damage that they managed to take and only get that one Tyler down a little bit. Not quite as effective as they were hoping. But Boise State's only a little bit behind in gold. I'm surprised we're at almost 4.5 minutes and no first blood yet, no invasion by either of these jungles. So everyone's kind of taking it slow and going into this with a little bit of an anticipation for a lot of aggression.
Yeah, everybody's gotten their first backs off for the most part. We see that, you finished the jungler item for Ethug, Corrupting Potion picked up for Ascent, Pickaxe picked up there by a Tice, and we see one Tyler also backing for the Karishi Shard as well. Finally the back for Goblin and Dean, double longsword, and it looks like boots and some wards for Dean. So everyone's getting their first safe backs off, but yeah, it has been interesting. It's a slower game, which is something we usually don't see from Boise State. It's usually Ethug finding his way into the enemy jungle, and the rest of the team comes around. Nice stun by Red Hots onto LoL, who's just sitting nice and comfortably there, thanks to the Grasp of the Undying healing him up, as well as he's still got a health potion in the inventory. Of course, Orin doesn't really need to back, so he's going to stay ahead on items in front of Red Hots unless Red Hots teleports. Right now, so it's been a passive farm game that's slightly favoring CU Boulder. There's a reason they have a slight lead of 300 gold, but now Red Hot's dropping low. Can only have the stun on the LoL, get the passive shield there, but a nice ward. Going to spot out Ethug, who's not able to land anything, and Orange just going to disengage there. Graves waiting around in the background in case something goes haywire.
Yeah, Red Hot's still very low, but trying to get the bait out. It might be a little too strong, though. Carson is going to reveal himself there. No wards placed down by Boise State, but positioning was all right. And actually, that might be an attempted re-engage onto Ethug there. It is going to be a secured recall from Red Hot. And this is just a tough lane in terms of creep for Ascent. It makes sense. It's a Lucian going into the Malphite. Close death sentence there. But it is going to continue to be rough here, so we certainly need to see some pressure towards this mid-side relatively soon.
Will be interesting to see also if Boise State advances, how Goblin plays on the Ashe going forward. Of course, the changes coming through in the patch tomorrow to reduce the number of arrows. She'll have early game on the volley to make her a little bit less oppressive in lane, at least in terms of how easy it is to hit the volley, but that's not the case tonight, so that's why Boise State still on that Ashe, but I am curious to see how that champion responds in the coming days. But it really just has been a very passive game. You see Red Hot's, he finally got the back off, got the Sheen, gonna land the stun on DeLong, he'll get the Sheen proc and then disengage to avoid Grasp the Undying. But right now, not a whole lot happening. Mountain Dragon is up. Graves sitting down there in the area. Going to counter jungle a little bit of eThug's farm. Would not be shocked to see the pinks come out. He's going to go bot lane or at least set up something for Dragon priority.
There we go. See the vision. And definitely a deep push from CU Boulder here. Not really in the place for Boise State to make a move down towards that. We can't see the pinks coming out there as well. And the response pinks from CU Boulder, hey, Malphite's back in the mid lane, so keep an eye on that. We might get some movement down. But the lane is pushed so far forward, they're going to engage.
Yeah, good job there. Smokescreen on a Goblin. He is forced to use the heal and Lantern away. Culling pop by a Tice, but unfortunately Death Sentence is going to miss. Boy's taking a shove down that mid lane. Maybe try and get a plate for eThug. It doesn't look like Dragon's going to be attempted by CU Boulder, but you can see they have all of that river rewarded, so they could attempt Dragon, and Boise State would really have no idea, but unfortunately the Buffalo's not going to capitalize on that. They're just going to keep farming away.
That is a good maneuver to choose here. Red Hot has the upper hand on creep and majority of the time pressure on this lane, though we have seen Carson pop his head in a couple of times. There's the level up over Ascent there in the mid lane there. He's going to finally hit that 7. But it's just, I mean, the amount of damage that each team has done, I don't think we've got a single plate down. This is going to be the closest one, or as it drops right there in the bottom lane. But good damage onto each of them. I am so surprised that we're almost at 8 minutes and have not yet seen a single kill here, and I think we're going to see it now.
Yeah, we see it's a 4-man dive bot lane by Boulder, flash over the wall by a Tice. Dean is low, just used the Death Sentence, going to flay them, and unfortunately there's no one there. Flash in, 4-man knockup from Ascent. 1 kill onto a Tice. One Tyler trying to run away, but he's going to ride right into eThug. There's another kill picked up this time by Goblin. Nice flash over the wall onto Night Raven, who's got nothing. And Boise State a little bit slow on the rotation from Ascent, but he makes some pay with a flash 4-man ult to flip that around, and Boise State gets a huge win there.
A 4-for-1. They might have lost out on the first blood, but a spectacular move from Ascent. You know what? We can put this guy on any champion, and he will do well in any lane. Just spectacular presence there, and what a great unstoppable force here to see from Boise State. So, hey, that's going to shove things a little bit in their favor in terms of gold. D now coming up to try to help Ascent.
Nice Death Sentence there onto a Tice. Unfortunately, Ascent's backing because he has no ultimate and doesn't have a lot of health. We see eThug rotating over, but nothing's going to come of it as Karsa picks up his red buff, and a Tice is going to just simply walk away. So, good attempt there, just a little bit too late. Only complaint for Boise State is that 2 of those kills went on the Malphite, who, as you can see, is building a pure tank. So, not the most efficient use of the gold, as Goblin is going to get hit. Potential root's going to come out. Now the curtain call is going to be used, but a nice Ash Arrow going to cancel that one out from one Tyler. Still got to worry about Night Raven. Nice dodge there. Goblin wants to turn it around. He's got to be careful. One Tyler's going to flash in. Fourth shot gets the crit, and he was so close to taking down Night Raven.
So darn close. One more auto, or had the volley come up, that would have done it as well. That's all right. 1-1 and 1-2. Boulder pick up another one for themselves. That's going to give them more pressure in the bottom lane, which is not what they need, and Dean's going to get collapsed on.
Looks like Dean should be able to disengage. Doesn't look like anything's going to happen. Nice little bit of damage, but now that Ascent has gotten those kills, he is going to be extremely tanky. So there's not much a Tice can do right now. You can see that damage has just fallen off incredibly quickly. So I'll be curious to see where Boise State went to make their next move, as they are now ahead 4-2. The gold lead is about 500. Dragon's still just sitting there, as well as Rift Herald, so no objectives have been touched. There's only been a couple of plates taken down by the Buffaloes in a couple of different lanes. A Tice incredibly low, unstoppable force off cooldown, but Boise State doesn't want to get that aggressive, and it looks like now they might be heading over to the Dragon.
That was a solid move as well, keeping Dean there. Oh, call the Forge Guard is going to come out, as well as Hextech Ultimatum.
Yeah, Hextech Ultimatum is going to trap LoL in there. Not sure who really wants to be there. Flash to try and break the brittle. Both are incredibly low, but nice stun re-engaged by Red Hots. Both of them are extremely low. Unfortunately, LoL's going to win that one. Have to wonder if Red Hots maybe could have just jumped to safety, but it will allow Boise State to pick up the Dragon. So it's a trade they probably didn't want to take, but it's one they'll go with regardless. An Earth Dragon for a kill onto that Ornn.
Yeah, just doing their own thing up on the top side. We can see that there was pressure from just Goblin in the bottom lane before that Dragon move, and Ascent was joined by Dean to get as much pressure as possible and get Addis to head back to the base there, and that allowed for exactly the pressure they needed in the river and able to pick up that Mountain Drake, which is a nice one to start on, especially with Plate still being up for almost 3 minutes. And in the meantime, Ethug, as well as Ascent, may be looking here for a nice game.
Sleep's going to land onto one Tyler. He's going to cleanse it off, and an Asher is going to hit. There's Ascent. He's going to get the knock-up, use the stopwatch from Dean to reset tower aggro. Boise State plays that one perfectly. It's 2 for them in the bot lane, and the Broncos should be able to get a play here.
Not only that, this is the person we were talking about needing to watch out for right now. One Tyler on this Jhin, 1, 2, and 1. While that is not to say that this player cannot come back from something like that, it certainly gives a little bit of an ego boost to the Broncos for being able to get an early lead in that lane and early pressure on that bottom tower in response to a couple of plays that have been taking them across the board.
A nice full 160 gold value onto Goblet there, so he's going to be able to easily back. Does look like he's picked up the Ninja Tabby with the amount of AD on the side of CU Boulder, especially from the auto attacks. He doesn't want to deal with any of that, so be curious to see what he wants to do in terms of attack speed later on in the game. We see the Magi's has also been picked up by Ethug starting to stack. Lol's going to try and dump away. Not going to be hit by anything from Ethug. Dean there as well, but that Orange tanky enough with the Sunfire. He's just going to retreat back to his tower and not have to worry.
Good disengage by him as well, not even seeing that Dean was there, but the second Ethug was spotted, immediately recognizing, hey, I'm not going to get this tower. Hey, but looks like Steve Boulder has found Boise State out in the jungle. The mobility available, though, from the Broncos team right now is enough for them to kind of roam where they want to at the moment, along with the tankiness and the engage they've got from Ascent is allowing for that. In the meantime, we got 1 minute left on play to teleport come down bottom.
Going to be Red Hot's going to teleport down. The Ash Arrow is going to land onto one Tyler. Nice block there by Night Raven to block the stun, but the Hex Tech ultimatum is unfortunately going to trap the Jhin. Heal was used as well by the Karma, and it's going to save his life, but unfortunately not his 80 carries.
This roam is insane from Boise State. They're just kind of allowing LoL up in the top lane to get pressure. We know that his lane priority is much lower than someone like Red Hot, or really most of the other players on this team, but Boise State's looking for an engage behind tower.
See Carson going to cleanse off the sleep. Unfortunately, it's not going to be able to save him. Lol has now teleported down. Call the Forge God going to be used. It's enough to pick up Dean. Double kill onto Goblin. Lol now retreating to his tower. Ascent is there. Unstoppable Force is in play potentially. There are also minions there. Nice Dark Harvest stack pickup. Now Lol dropping low. Try to do what he can. They're going to let Goblin pick it up with the volley, and Boise State once again plays that tower dive just perfect, and they're going to pick up 3 overall in the bot lane.
Not quite a triple kill, but this should allow them to grab the first tower of the game, and that's going to give them a little bit more of a gold boost. As we can see, we're just over 2K now, and that's going to increase it a considerable amount. So Boise State is feeling very confident in this roam play, and Ascent in particular doing an incredible job of that, as well as Dean following around Ethug or moving towards Ascent if they need pressure in that mid lane. We've come to get used to the roam from Dean, but excuse me, but to leave Goblin in that bottom lane with one Tyler and with Night Raven, 2 spectacular players, slightly concerning maybe. However, we don't have to worry about it. Goblin is picking up plenty of kills, plenty of gold for the team. We can see 3 bounties on the side of Boise State. 2 members have not even died yet, and Goblin sitting at 5, 1, and 3. Feeling pretty good.
The only problem for Boise State is that the 280 carries on the side of CU Boulder, the more traditional ones, I'll say, in terms of Lucian and the Jhin, definitely out-farming their lane opponents. You see, of course, the Tice probably was going to win that matchup regardless, but the fact that he's up nearly 50 is going to mean he's going to have a decent chunk of items, even though he is just 1-1, and we see Jhin winning by just about 30 over Goblin, so he is still keeping up with him in terms of items, at least for the most part. We see they both finished their first item, so something Boise State's going to have to be worried about, especially as Orin can start to give his team some upgraded items. Those 80 carries for CU Boulder are going to be hitting a lot harder than their score lines might indicate because of how well they've been farming so far in the early game.
Just a couple more levels and they will be able to get those forged items. Now clearing out vision around this dragon. That one sweeper is not going to be enough time for them to take down all 3 of those wards. They ended up actually going for that vision ward instead of there's a word I'm looking for there. The yellow, but they're going to engage now.
Nice cleanse coming out from one Tyler, but it is going to be on cooldown. It was only the Ashe arrow expelled. There has been a Shelly dropped in the mid lane, and she'll just barely get the charge off. Not enough to take down the tower, but it's still enough to do significant damage. Nice chunk of damage from Ethug onto Carson, who's down 2 levels right now against the Boise State jungler. And this might just be a Dragon Force from Boise State, and I'm not sure there's much the Buffaloes could do, as the Broncos going to pick up their second of the game. It's going to be Ocean, so now we're playing the Infernal or Cloud Soul game as soon as this goes down.
Boise State now able to clear out a little bit more vision. The vision game has been quite good on the side of CU Boulder, both defensive and offensive. As you can see, the blue side of Boise State's jungle has several wards in there, so a little bit of vision, but that's not where most of the action is taking place. Almost every time it has been down towards this bottom side, and as I say, at a 3-man gank onto mid lane here from CU Boulder.
Curtain call going to come out on the Dean. He'll tank all 4 shots and stay alive. It's actually Night Raven who nearly goes down. Shield's going to expire. Ethug picks that one up. Carson now going to get hit by the volley. He is going to be slowed. Here comes Red Hot's over the wall. Nice unstoppable force onto the Jhin in the back line, and Boise State turns that 3-man gank into a 3-man kill of their own. LoL picks up a tower, but I'm going to think the Buffaloes are not happy with the result.
You can't be happy with that one. The Dragon as well going over to Boise State there, so that gold lead is slowly increasing, and map control is going heavily over to Boise State now, potentially looking at a second tower here for the Broncos. Ascent's going to get hit by the culling, but just stand in it, not even moving out intentionally, saying, hey, you're not even going to get Goblin with one of those shots, and I can take everything just fine.
Yeah, you see the amount of armor Malphite is building, and Malphite more than happy to see the team comp from CU Boulder running 3 AD carries, or at least 3 pseudo AD carries, depending on what you want to call Graves. And he's like, I'll just stack as much armor as I want, and you're not going to do anything to me. So I'll be curious to see how the Buffaloes plan on breaking through that. Maybe Night Raven's got to build a little bit more damage, something like Leandri's. But we'll have to see. Right now he hasn't finished a single item. Dean has the Gargoyle Stone Plate available. Now we see that Goblin's finished his second item, and you can start to see that near 4K gold lead setting up nicely for Boise State in terms of the items advantage that they have across most of the lanes.
And a lot of that as well has to do with the creep score slowly getting back to level here. We can see LoL taking quite a bit of damage now from Red Hot, but as we all know, that tanky Ornn can deal a considerable amount in response. I do, like I said, notice that almost to the bottom lane, Goblin has barely caught up, or has almost caught up, only 15 now behind, and Malphite, as much roaming as Ascent has been doing, has almost caught up to Entice there on the Lucian in the mid lane, and that was where the heaviest lead was for the entirety so far of this game, and Chandra Crystalera is going to go out.
And no cleanse this time for the Jhin. Unstoppable Force going to land. Nice dodge by Ascent, and that is going to be a dead 80 carry. Night Raven going to get caught in the flay and the death sentence. He is the next target for Boise State. We'll see if Carson and Tice can get away. There's no engage for Boise State besides the sleep from Ethug, and it looks like for the majority part, Boise State's going to disengage, and it looks like there was a ward there, so we're going to see a disengage from Ethug. Not a ward, actually, but they knew he was there, so we saw the pings come out, so they were ready for it. Boise State just going to be able to shove this down.
Not enough to send Ethug out of the jungle, though. This is still pressure from Boise State. They're looking to pick up yet another tower. This would be the third one from them. CU Boulder still only has that top lane tower, and no prio or no pressure in any lane at the moment. Boise State is just able to run rampant. We can see as well, Red Hots on the Camille is focusing, keeping pressure down in the bottom lane, and the remainder of Boise State on adjusting pressure to the mid side, trying to get as close to the inhibitors as possible here. In the meantime, Boise State maybe jumped on the Cullings coming out on the Red Hots.
Yeah, we're going to see Hextech Ultimatum is going to be used. He's going to be forced to flash away, but Entice wants to follow. He's able to pick up one, so good job there by CU Boulder, maybe taking advantage of Red Hot being all alone, and that Lucian still having a decent chunk of farm. He's got 2 items finished as well, including the Mana Immune, so he's trying to stack that up as fast as possible to keep CU Boulder in the game. We did see that the second Rift Herald went over to Ethug, so he'll be able to drop that anywhere, probably in top lane, where none of the towers have really been touched for Boise State, but he could also go mid if a fight comes out around Dragon and maybe even pick up a couple of charges there as well.
It seems like they're okay with letting this top lane push as far as they want it to. Really, this is a lot of the first presence that we've seen from anyone other than LoL, trying to get a little bit of responding pressure out there, as we can see Carson just recalled from that lane. So Jelly is going to come out here on the mid side. They want to get a second charge off, or a charge off onto the inhibitor tower. see where the focus is. You either have to adjust to the team or adjust to Shelly, and there it is.
Nice unstoppable force on the back line, dodging the Orn Horn. Unfortunate, it's a shutdown onto E-Thug. We see Red Hot's trying to catch up to one Tyler. Unfortunately, there's a volley there that's immediately going to shut down that Jhin. Night Raven incredibly low. Boise State has lost one. Red Hot wants to re-engage. Nice block there by the Orn. He's not quite able to get away. Nice dodge on the death sentence, though. And it looks like they should be able to make it back to their tower. Ascent finally starting to succumb to that very long-term damage. Night Raven gets caught out by a Goblin, and now it's a split fight. Carson can't quite make it to the blast cone. Lowell going to try and run away. As tanky as he is, Boise State's going to let him, but that should open up mid inhibitor and potentially drag a point soul for them very soon.
A little bit of a risky play by the Buffaloes. They're going for Shelly to try to prevent that second charge onto the inhibitor tower instead of turning around and trying to focus down Ascent. We saw the Enchanted Crystal Arrow miss, and so there was an idea of where Goblin was, and then we also saw, I think it was one Tyler just walk directly that way right towards Goblin on the Ashe, who was able to split that re-engage towards the mid side, or the bottom side, I guess, of that mid lane. So Boise State 19-6. They are taking many kills for a single one from the Buffaloes here. That gold lead is going to start increasing as well. Right about 6K is how the Broncos are looking right now, and they have cracked open the base. You can also see bottom lane is getting jumped on.
X-Tech ultimatum used. Night Raven can't do anything. E-Thug's going to walk over and smite that one to try and restack up that Mage Eyes that he just lost. And now he sees something in the mid lane. Root is going to land onto Dean. And with the Edge of Night purchased there by Carson, there's not a lot Boise State can do in terms of engage unless Malphite hits him with maybe one of his weaker spells. Of course, not the Unstoppable Force. So they're just going to let that full disengage come across. We do see that Lucian has finished the Mirror Mana, so he's going to be a lot stronger in terms of damage, but still, I don't know how much damage they're going to put out onto Ascent with the amount of armor he has, so they're just going to have to win that one by a war of attrition. And there's a couple of picks here setting up for Boise State. Here comes Tyler and Lowell. They have a couple of wards, but I'm not sure they know where the Malphite is. Now they're... Oh, okay, they're not going to walk into him. I don't know how Lowell missed that one. You don't see the pings come out either, so I'm not sure that they even know he is there. Unfortunately, there's really no one they can capitalize on. Here it is. There's the flash. Double knock up onto one Tyler and Night Raven. Heal's not going to do anything for you, Karma. That's a double kill for Boise State. Tice unfortunately tried to call in. That's a triple kill. Red Hot's probably going to lose his life in the top lane, but it will be all worth it for Boise State as they're just going to shove down 4 men on top of this mid inhibitor.
No reason to even go for the Baron. You're going to force back the recalls from the remaining members of CU Boulder, and even though Boise State does not have minion push, they do have Ascent, and they do have Dean taking members as well as the damage to follow things up. We'll see if the Buffaloes can stop the Broncos here from taking the last tower. It is going to force a disengage out as these respawns are coming through.
Yeah, using that one minion and just the tankiness of the Boise State team to siege down that turret. So the Broncos now only need one more. There is still, as you mentioned, a Baron on the map that could potentially get the Buffaloes back in the game if they get a wild ace. As we do see, it is a near 4K, or an 8K, excuse me, gold disadvantage here for CU Boulder. So that's probably their last-ditch hope of let's get an ace and get Baron. But right now, anytime that Ascent has his ult up, it's probably a dead Jhin.
Oh, absolutely. You gotta stay away from the Unstoppable Force. We know his flash is down, as he just used it on that prior engage, but flash is absolutely not necessary when you've got something like an Enchanted Crystal Arrow or a Death Sentence to assist you with. And in the meantime, yeah, there we go. We can see CU Boulder trying to throw down some vision, trying to keep an eye on Boise State as they know that that is going to be a high priority for them. That Baron would certainly mean the end of the game for CU Boulder, or one victorious fight, and they are instead going to focus on the engage. No Baron necessary here from the Broncos, it appears. They're just going to try to use it as a setup for potential bait.
Well, Tyler got a little too close to Malphite there. Lowell is there to try and get the knockup. Root's going to land, and now Ascent taking a lot of damage. Forced to Unstoppable Force out of the fight. Curtain Call going to be used there by Lowell Tyler. Blast Code stolen away by Dean. He is going to be giving a Lantern over to Ascent to get him out of the fight. Baron was angered for a minute there, but Boise State, one of the few times that their engages haven't gone their way, but they will more than gladly reset. They'll give up one tower on the bot side to CU Boulder, but still, the Buffaloes have a lot more work to do to come back in this game.
That they do 23-7 is the kill spread. Not a massive gold lead for Boise State considering that kill spread. A lot of that has to do with CU Boulder's ability to stay up on creep score across the board for the majority of the game, and now it is looking like Addis or Tice is the primary creeper on this one. You've got Ethog doing a spectacular job. The response there, it is the Enchanted Crystal Arrow is going to come out, and immediately, no, was that the cleanse? I thought that was the cleanse used there by Carson.
Just a spell shield pop there by Boise State, so it'll probably be off cooldown around the same time Goblin's arrow is, so unfortunately not a great trade either way, but still getting rid of that spell shield opens him up for something like the Unstoppable Force that is now coming off cooldown here incredibly soon, but right now Boise State's still looking for an in. Ascent, meanwhile, is dueling out Carson, whose spell shield is now still on cooldown. Once again, he's going to blast cone the Malphite right into the team. They're trying to stay as much away from him as they can. Root's going to miss. There's a double sleep time on the Night Raven and one Tyler. Cleanse is going to be used as well as a flash. Tech Deck Ultimatum on the back line as the Tice goes down. Double knocker from the Unstoppable Force. One Tyler now flashing away. Carson dashes away. Red Hot's going to pick up one. He will lose his life in the process, but I don't think it's going to matter as Ethug's going to take down Night Raven. LoL, the last one remaining. He's going to get death sentence out of tower range. He wants to take down Goblin. He will just pop the Guardian Angel, and now Boise State, they get the ace. Teleport going to be used by Ascent to make the super minion immune, and that should be enough for Boise State. They've got the tower in their sight. They've got the Nexus in their sight as the Boise State dice fall, and the Broncos have picked up game number 1 in this series.
Wow, that is not what I was expecting from either of these compositions. Just a phenomenal performance there from Boise State, and that is a huge ego boost. The one lane that we were slightly concerned about, no problems. Goblin got so fed. Dean was able to roam very early on, so really well played. Great teamwork from both teams, but Boise State taking that one home.
Speaking of that, Boise State Esports always looking for talented players, production, and broadcasters. Top talent along with good grades and eligibility can earn you scholarships as well. Sign up today by visiting boisestate.edu/esports for more information as we get to see if these current Broncos are going to finish off the series or if the Buffaloes have something up their sleeves. But really, yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, the bot lane, Boise State put a ton of focus down there, and it paid off extremely well. And really, for the Buffaloes, they played the first 10 minutes well. It was a very slow game, as you mentioned, which I think plays into their hand with how aggressive the Broncos want to be. And that four-man Unstoppable Force from Ascent that I have a feeling we'll probably see at some point later tonight in our top 5 plays immediately put Boise State in the lead that they never relinquished. As it is Boise State and CU Boulder going on here in the first round of the C-LOL Invitational. The Broncos taking game 1 of this best of 3. And I'll be really curious how the Broncos want to respond and what the Buffaloes are going to try and put together, because we've never seen Ascent on that Malphite, and he put in a ton of work.
Yeah, that is going to be banned out. If it's not picked up by Boise State, I can expect it to be a first-round ban for sure. And this was just the amazing re-engage here. And actually right before that, we saw one member of Boise State go down. Dean, there we go. Yeah, a little bit early. That's what we want to see. That incredible Unstoppable Force Ascent allowing Ethug to re-engage on this fight and Goblin to stay alive. They split the kills evenly as well, aside from Ascent picking up that last one. But you know what? We'll give it to him. So well played.
Oh, yeah, absolutely well-deserved. Immediately put Boise State in the lead in every lane but top, just simply because Red Hots couldn't be part of that fight. And that's exactly what they did, is that allowed Ethug to start running down the pressure. That allowed Malphite to be able to go down in the bot lane whenever he wanted, and that really signaled what the win condition was for Boise State. It was Ascent's going to Unstoppable Force probably onto the Jhin or the Lucian, and there's not a whole lot they could do about it, but unfortunately, watch their health bars go from full to 0 very quickly.
There we can see another great. Most of these fantastic engages were thanks to roams from Ascent or Ethug down towards the bottom side. That ended up working out incredibly well for them. That Jhin never really getting his feet off the ground. And fantastic communication as well between these guys. The aggro swap from the towers was very spectacular. The amount of times that Dean put himself into a situation saying, hey, I'm going to end up going down, but my team is either going to get 4 or close to an ace, 3-4 close to an ace. It's going to be a heavy, heavy trade in the Broncos' favor, and every time it ended up being the case there. So I would be more surprised to not see the Malphite banned than I would be to see the Rumble not banned.
Yeah, the Malphite absolutely put in work. You'd have to think it's probably Malphite and Rumble Band, or maybe CU Boulder will just be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't play a full AD comp into something like a Malphite. So they might just switch up their comp as well. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned as well, the tower dives were executed extremely perfect in the bot lane a couple of times where they were like, hey, we're going to go on a 3-man dive, and no one went down, or as you mentioned, maybe Dean went down once, but there was a great stopwatch by him to keep him alive. So really there is nothing the Buffaloes could do, and once again, it was, yeah, you can try and bring that cleanse, but there's only so much UCC you can stop from landing on you before Boise State's got another layer right there. So it was a really, really well-played start for Boise State. I mean, you see there, one Tyler, he has the cleanse on cooldown, immediately tries to get back into the fight. He gets knocked up in the air and immediately falls right back down.
And the damage to follow it up as well. You know, you've got the tankiness from a Malphite, but he's going to offer at least enough damage for the rest of the team to play off of. Same thing with the Camille in the top lane, for instance. And really, the Thresh was the only one that was kind of sacrificing himself, and that's Dean's job, especially on his favorite champion. He's used to not necessarily landing every single death sentence. That's not why he's his favorite. That's not why he's what he thinks, he assumes he does the best on. It is just because he plays it very, very well overall into the team composition, recognizing when your team will be able to win that fight with your own sacrifice, or when it is time to back out, maybe use the lantern to get somebody out.
Yeah, and I think Boise State has done a really good job, and this is the one thing that I've sort of noticed from last semester to this semester is they have such a wide champion pool that last semester there were times where if a certain jungler was banned away, the team kind of fell flat. I mean, there was a lot of, one or two champions that the guy could play. If they were banned away, Boise State started to struggle. This year it has been an absolute just showing of we can really put anything in. Where we've seen Nautilus mid, we've seen Galio support, we've seen now Malphite mid, we've seen Lulu mid. I mean, really Boise State has said, you can try and ban us away, but 5 bans probably not going to be enough for most teams to slow down what Boise State wants to do. And I think that has been one of the differences is these champion pools for all these players this year just feels so much bigger than last year that you can't ban out all of them. You can just hope to take away their favorites and maybe hope they make a misstep on something they played not as much, but they still are incredible on most of the time.
And enforcing one single ban, the fact that we see Ascent's Rumble banned out every time, the fact that you basically have a free ban giveaway, or hey, this is going to be banned out. If it's not, we're going to pick it up and we're going to dominate with it, and they're going to regret not banning it. And also the current state of the game makes it a lot more versatile in terms of these kind of crazy comps to be pulled out. If somebody knows how to use it well together, if they can get a composition that has a little bit of cohesion, which Boise State is really good at trying to figure out or work around, then you can make a lot of crazy, insane comps work that you wouldn't expect to, even into very, very high-ranked players. We saw, we've got 2 Masters last season on the Buffaloes here. So Boise State, they're going to start out. I'm assuming this is a swap. I'm going to think that Boise State is now on the red side. Loser gets to pick the side here. And just based on the fact that it is the same bans as last time but flipped, we can assume the Broncos are on the red side here and the Buffaloes are on the blue side to start.
Yeah, looks like with the Buffaloes being on the blue, I'll be curious to see what they want to first pick this time. Looks like neither team really wants to change the bans up. There's the Hecarim ban going to come out once again from CU Boulder. Boise State going to stick with the Samira ban, a new champion who I know one Tyler from the match history has been playing quite a lot of. So the Nidalee one's a little curious to me. I guess the Buffaloes maybe banking more on solo queue than what we've seen Ethug play with the team. But the Lilia ban this time for Boise State, of course, with the Buffaloes having first pick, they don't want to give that one over.
No Malphite ban. The Ornn is going to be the first lock-in from the Buffaloes there. A safer first pick for sure, but a little more interesting. I'm interested as well. You've got the Lilia band out there from what I'm assuming is Boise State. It hasn't been flopped, so I'm slightly concerned, but it has to be based on these selections that we've got here. The Kindred, which was actually banned out last round by Boise State as the final ban in round number 1. So we're going to see that lock in there for Ethug.
Yeah, interesting choice by him. Not something we've seen him play very much, but it's something that he is very strong on. Of course, the Lamb's Respite, able to keep your teammates alive, also allows for some pretty decent objective steals. We're going to see there's the Lulu going to come out for Boise State. You've got to think that's probably Red Hot's on the Lulu in the mid or the top lane. So it looks like Boise State's starting to build a little bit of that funnel comp that they just have Red Hot's basically. He's like, you know what, wherever Ethug goes, I'm flashing in right behind him and I'm going to try and hit the wild growth on him before he dies.
I do like that pickup. We've seen it flexed. You just mentioned it a moment ago, Fish, how we've seen the Lulu in the mid lane. We've seen some crazy things being picked out from the Broncos, and it works very, very well. They've always been a fan, this team has always been a fan of the flex picks, but never has it worked quite so efficiently for this team. The Syndra and the Graves are going to be the final locks for this first pick phase there from the Buffaloes. Boise State going to choose another high aggression, but also tanky champion of Mordekaiser going into the Ornn, which is certainly favorable.
Yeah, something that they played a lot against Nevada with Red Hot's mid on the Lulu, Ascent top on the Mordekaiser, and he absolutely made Nevada pay. We'll be curious to see if CU Boulder understands that QSS is an item in the store, because the Nevada Wolfpack seem to fail to realize that counters Mordekaiser extremely hard. We see the Morgana ban once again for Boise State. There's the Ash ban for the Buffaloes, so no chance for Goblin to run it back on that one. He'll have to change it up, maybe a Misfortune, something we saw against Nevada, or maybe something even like a Jin. There's still a lot of options really on the table. Last couple of bans here, I'd be very curious to see what Boise State and CU Boulder want to go for. It would not shock me if the Buffaloes target down that Braum once again, but we've seen teams in the past get fooled and think that's a Lulu support, and it's opened things up for Dean that usually are banned away, as the Ezreal's the last ban for Boise State.
I like it. I like Boise State, feeling confident going into this one. And there's a lot of opportunity for both teams here, as the bottom choice is really available. Boise State clearly just trying to mirror the picks on the other side, or at least attempting to mirror the flex picks there. And now they have the ability to counter pick the bottom side. It looks like that Ash is going to be taken away though, so Goblin will not be on one of his favorites so far this season as of late, very, very strong. And the Senna will be the final ban out as well. Now Boise State will have the opportunity to choose against this bottom lane. Really, they can pick kind of whatever they want. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jin was locked in once more, or even, we've seen the Draven or the Xayah played a considerable amount here by one Tyler. So several options, and it looks like the Misfortune is actually going to be the lock in there for Boise State.
Yeah, something that we've seen Goblin on, seems to be his go-to when Ash is not available, so he'll pick that one up. Be curious to see what the Buffaloes want to do in response here. Still need an AD carry, still need a bot lane, really. There's the Karma once again for Night Raven, something that he's played a decent bit of, not something that I think he played extremely well. He did get some nice blocks, but he's very defensive on it. We saw the heal come out last time, so very interesting to see what they want to pair with it, if it's the Jin again or if it's going to be something a little bit different this time for one Tyler in the bot lane.
I did like that combo, the Jin and Karma. There is a lot of pressure early on, but Boise State just had Edug's presence and even Ascent's presence in that bottom lane relatively early on, so they're going to stick with that. They're going to keep the majority of this team. Everything aside from the Syndra is identical to the last composition that these guys went through with Boise State. They are going to lock in the Braum. I love the Misfortune Braum combination, and the addition of his passive concussive blows to this team comp will be fantastic.
Yeah, you have to wonder what the Senna ban there was for CU Boulder. It's something that we've seen Dean on very rarely, and it's something we've never seen Goblin play. Of course, Riot has sort of tried to force Senna back into that support role, but it's going to be Braum once again. So I'll be very curious to see how these work out, and it's going to be very paramount that one Tyler picks up that QSS, because last time that he faced a Jin, Ascent absolutely made him pay by not ever going for that QSS. So I'll be really curious to see how it goes, how the Lulu mid lane goes against that Syndra. I was excited to see that they put a Tice on something that he plays a bit more of. I'm not always a fan of teams in the collegiate level trying to copy the pro meta and say, hey, let's pick up the most powerful champion and put him on something that he hasn't played a ton of, because that's not something that Tice had played. It's a lot of Sylas, it's a lot of Syndra. So back on his comfort pick for game 2 with their backs against the wall. It is CU Boulder, Boise State, first round of the C-LOL Invitational. The Broncos picking up game 1 in this best of 3, putting them on match point. And now with our draft all wrapped up, we are going to pitch things over here to Glovely to see what he thinks of the draft for game number 2.
So going into game number 2, the lineups, both of them are very team fight oriented from the looks of things, although I do think Boulder has a bit more pick oriented play style available to them. through the Jhin and through the Graves. But I think this is definitely going to be a straight-up bloodfest around major objectives. So pay extra attention when targeting around the Dragon, around the Baron, around the Rift Herald. Major objectives in constrained environments, that's when those big team fights are going to happen, and when you have those huge AoE abilities and ultimates to go flowing through them. As in terms of which team composition I think is the stronger one, I really do like Boise State's setup. I'm a little worried about the Kindred. It's not a champion we see do very well when it is played, and it's not a particularly common champion. It's really all about how you play that Lamb's Respite. Thankfully, there's not really much in the way of options to push you out of that Lamb's Respite once it has dropped. So play around that ultimate if you're Boise State.
And talk to us about the Mordekaiser, because it was something for Nevada that we saw time and time again where there was no QSS. There was no QSS, and it's an item that really just sort of hard counters that champion. When is the right time for someone like a Jhin to build that QSS to be able to escape the ultimate?
I think it depends on how quickly the Mordekaiser is able to scale and move into the later parts of the game. If you're still early on in the game, Mordekaiser is not likely to blow teleport to come down to your bot lane, so don't rush it as your first item. But by the time people start grouping up, by the time you've got 2 items under your belt, Mordekaiser is going to start roaming across the map, team fights are going to start breaking out. That's when you might consider the QSS, depending on how far ahead Mordekaiser is. The further ahead he is, the scarier he's going to be, and the less you're going to want to be trapped with him in a 1v1 in the Shadow Realm.
Good advice. I like it.
Yeah, and anything else, Glovely, that you really wanted to focus on here for game number 2?
If there's anything else I want to focus on, it's both sides have picked up these enchanter supports that they're going to be using. So pay attention to the way that they're using their shields, their buffs. Both teams are going to be playing very much around their carry champions. On the side of Boise State, you've got the Lulu amplifying the extra attack speed. Braum is able to set things up for the Misfortune to drop that ultimate. You have that huge wombo combo available. And pay very close attention to where the fights are taking place. If either one of these teams catches the other in the jungle, we could see a team wipe go in just a few seconds.
Well, Glovely, thank you for your input. As I like to say when the Broncos are on match point, we hope we don't see you again, because that means the series has been wrapped up. As we mentioned, it is CU Boulder taking on Boise State here in the first round of the CLOL Invitational. The Broncos sitting up 1-0 right now over the Buffaloes. Broncos the 4th seed, the Buffaloes the 29th seed in this 32-team tournament. So not much shock about how game 1 turned out. We'll curious to see if the Buffaloes can force us into a game 3 as we kick things off on the Rift.
And we are in. I do love seeing Braum. While we don't see him run the Braum incredibly consistently or very, very often, that concussive blows passive is obscene when you have the attack speed to follow it up. And when you got someone like a Kindred, a Lulu, and a Misfortune there available to help buff as well as getting those autos down, it's very easy to get that hard crowd control locked down and then follow it up with a bit of considerable damage here. So we'll see how the Broncos decide to engage on this one. Last time we had such a slow start. I didn't actually mark when first blood occurred, but I think it was close to 7 or 8 minutes, which is almost unseen from the Boise State team. It does look like they're moving as a 5-man crew, though, at the moment to start things out. So maybe looking for a bit of an invade.
Yeah, you saw the pings come out on the tri-bush. Unfortunately, it has been warded by CU Boulder, so they are going to know. They're going to put the sweeper out, but I'll be curious to see if the Buffaloes do end up retreating or not. Looks like, yeah, they are in full retreat mode. They want to play this very, very safe, and the Broncos going to full commit to this red buff steal, so we are going to have a bit of a smite battle here as there comes the members of CU Boulder. It is a 4-on-4, 600 health. Going to be pulled away from Ethug. Nice smite by Carson to win that one off. He's immediately going to flash with the level 2 advantage. First blood picked up there by Atice. Goblin goes running. He's going to flash over the Dragon Pit wall. So Boise State's invade goes wrong, and CU Boulder's off to a very, very hot start.
Everyone but the Orange getting an assist on that. They're going to continue this engage on a Goblin.
Yeah, the root's going to land onto him. He had no way to escape. He had already used the heal and the flash, and without the thresh there was no lantern. So that's 2 kills picked up for CU Boulder. We do see that there is going to be 1 on Karma, so a little bit of a silver lining, but still not something you want to see if you're a Bronco fan. The gold lead already a 1K deficit, and building all 4 summoner spells in the bot lane are on cooldown. So it would not shock me if Carson prioritizes that bot lane. You see a ton of damage come out onto Red Hot, who's once again in that mid on Lulu.
This is going to be a tough one. I'm kind of surprised. I think the Lulu was actually picked in response. Or no, the Lulu was in the second pick, now that I think about it. So it was the Syndra picked in response. So it's going to be a tough lane for Red Hot there. I can imagine a lot of early roaming or a lot of an adjustment to try to get some pressure in the other lanes, and then maybe an appearance there from Doug to kind of make up for that roam here. Boise State, hopefully that is not enough to drop their mental that far. We've seen them, get hit hard occasionally by that, but the Broncos tend to stay very, very level-headed when they encounter a rough start, and already trying to dwindle down that gold lead that is currently in favor of the Buffaloes.
I'll be really curious to see how often they try and gank that Boise State bot lane with Flash on cooldown. We see a ton of damage going out on the LoL, but he is able to get away. Unfortunately, Q going to miss there from Ascent. Rocco's doing a really good job pressuring this bot lane. We did see one Tyler back. He did pick up the dagger, so he is going for the Karichis first, which means there won't be too much extra AD on his side to start things off. So Boise State should be okay with that. If he only picked up the 2 assists, didn't get a ton of gold. Root going to land on to Dean. He is going to put up the shield, but one Tyler dropping incredibly low. He's got to be careful. Does have the flash heal and, of course, the Karma shield available. So he still has a ton of health, sort of hiding from Boise State, so they can't be too aggressive quite yet. And we see a gank onto Carson. Meanwhile, gank in the mid lane. Ascent looks like he's going to be forced to flash. Atice is also going to get under the tower. Nice flash from Ethug. Unfortunately, can't get in range. And both members who are being dived there able to survive for Boise State and CU Boulder. We see once again an engage on the right Raven. He is going to be stunned up. Leash put onto Dean. He will be rooted. One Tyler, though, not going to be able to put on a ton of damage. We do see Goblin is so not a whole lot either lane can do. The Karma is going to put a ton of damage onto Dean. He's dropping very low. Flash and the root is going to be used. It's just enough damage to pick up Dean, who did not have any summoner spells available. Boise State now sitting down nearly 1,700 gold.
Goblin feels just fine with that one. They decided to go for the chase on Dean instead of getting the commit onto Goblin. And Night Raven could have even popped the Ignite onto Goblin and then gone for Dean, or vice versa, but decided to actually leave Goblin up. So feeling okay about that. It is still the 1 death onto Goblin. Ethug might be looking for an engage here.
He's going to get ignited and rooted. He does not have the ult yet, so he is going to be taken out. Red Hot's now, he's in that fight. He doesn't have flash either, so he's probably going to be the next target. Unfortunately, Dean cannot get there in time. It's a double kill for Carson, and CU Boulder now jumping out to a 5-0 lead. And Boise State's got to be careful they don't let this goal deficit get any larger.
Woo-wee! This is what the Buffalo fans were looking for from this team. That early game pressure we really didn't see from them last game. Boise State still has potential hope here on the top side, as Ascent is on a very high damage and high aggression champion that will certainly help a little bit later on, but we saw so much back and forth between these 2 players, Bull and Ascent, earlier in the game. Oh, we've got, sorry, with the swap there. Ascent is on the Mordekaiser. It's bad that I just now acknowledged that one, the lane swap there. So still doing a great job, though, with these adjustments that Boise State is making.
Boise State they had a lot of success with this against Nevada, and you have to wonder if maybe the Buffaloes were ready for it, as we see Carson now going to jump in, going to smoke screen Ethug. He's only level 4. There's not a whole lot he can do. Tice is going to pick that one up. Night Raven rotating in from the bot side, and there's not much Red Hots can do, but a huge shield, as I think Colorado gave up on that, thinking it was an easy kill, so they're going to give one back to Boise State. The Broncos get lucky, but unfortunately all they do is save themselves 300 more gold transferring hands.
Bit of a saving grace for Boise State is that one Tyler only is sitting at 5 assists, hasn't picked up any of these kills. Night Raven 2-0-3, so has gotten 2 of the kills one Tyler was not able to snag, and has now fallen a considerable amount behind in creep score because of the roam towards the mid side that we saw, even given the pressure that they have had in response to Boise State's lane priority here with this match. Already a few plates down as well towards the mid side. No big surprise, though, thanks to all the kills. And oh my goodness, Tice going in.
He's going to pay for that one, though. Boise State's going to give that shutdown over to Goblin, so that's going to help him get back in the game, and all of that for an 0-3 Kindred who probably wasn't worth too much gold. So I don't know if that's a trade that the Buffaloes are going to be happy with. I understand trying to keep E-Thug as low a level as possible and punish him every time he's in the jungle, but that's going to help Boise State. That is a ton of gold now on Goblin, and you can see he has got to be the man for Boise State this game, as right now Ascent's just in a farm battle up in the top lane. So it's all on Goblin this time to get Boise State back in the game.
For sure, especially considering there's 3K that Boise State is currently behind. Ascent's going to try to get some good damage onto LoL, and there's Call of Forge God.
Nice job using the Death Realm to avoid the Call of the Forge God and not allow LoL to send it back. So a huge play there by Ascent. He's going to pick up his first kill in the top lane. That gold lead starting to shrink, still over 2.5K. So Boise State still's got a ton of work to do, but a huge play there by Ascent to get him on the board and allow him to have some of that pressure. But we see Carson rotating up. Stun's going to land on Red Hot. Smokescreen going to be there as well. But this should be a free dragon for CU Boulder, but they also are pinging that blue buff. They want to make E-Thug's life a living hell right now.
And it already is 0-4-0 is what E-Thug has been sitting at. That blue buff still up and available.
Carson's a little bit higher level. He is going to win the Smite battle. Now the curtain call is going to come out. Nice blocking there by Dean. A shutdown's going to go onto Goblin. We will get one back onto Dean, but right now Goblin picks up the gold. Nice flash onto Red Hot. Carson incredibly low. He's got to be careful. Goblin sees that, flashes forward, picks up his third shutdown of the game. One Tyler should be able to pick up this kill. We do see the Lamb Smite has been dropped at the top of your screen. A double kill for Goblin. Just can't quite get one Tyler. As we're going to see potentially a re-engage. He does get the root onto E-Thug. Red Hot's waiting there, has the shield. Jin's got to be careful. He's going to flash in with the force shot, pick up a double kill himself. E-Thug now has to be careful. He will disengage. So a very long trade overall. Boise State gets a ton of gold onto Goblin, but still the Buffaloes pick up 3 kills of their own.
E-Thug gets spotted out here, but we know that he has just teleported towards the backside.
Thug barely flashes over the wall. Night Raven being blocked by Dean. One Tyler still has to be careful. Looks like both members of Boise State should be able to get away. Flash by Night Raven's going to change that. He is going to make E-Thug 0-5. And Boise State's jungler unfortunately can't get out. But here comes Goblin. He has been caught out though by Carson as well. He picks up another shutdown. He will finally be taken out by Carson. And we're going to see a Tice pick up one onto Dean as well. So it's a 1-for-3. I don't think Boise State would trade. But that misfortune does have a ton of gold right now, and that is the one saving grace for Boise State.
It is a good feeling to at least have the ADC and Goblin of all players at that lead, but my goodness, 13-6, more than double the kills for CU Boulder, and really where they want them now. The Jin has managed to pick up 3 before, had was 2 under compared to the Karma here. And you've got so much pressure as well from a Tice in the mid lane on this Syndra. Clearly one of his favorite champions, always a spectacular one with a good amount of crowd control as well as just a solid amount of quick bursty damage. So it's going to be tough for them to come back with this Lulu now, really just having to escape under tower the whole game.
Boise State's going to go ahead and steal the blue buff away from Carson. Now they want to engage. Call of the Forge God going to be used from the back line. Going to get a knockup onto Dean. He's going to be the first target, but a nice death realm by Ascent going to take down Carson. That's going to allow him to come out right on top. Unfortunately, Wildgrowth's going to save him. I thought he was dead for sure. Boise State, despite the 3K gold deficit, still getting aggressive. They're going to trade 1 for 2, and the Broncos have got to be loving how things are going. We are seeing a plate in the bot lane. Goblin's got to be careful as the Tice is 4-2-2, but Boise State right now still playing well across the map and still playing aggressive despite the goal differential.
A good stun there under top by Goblin. Oh no, onto Goblin, and the ultimate to follow it up. Tice is going to bring the flash as well to secure that kill.
And you can see that Syndra going to be a pain for Boise State as they get later into the game, just absolutely destroying Goblin 100-0 thanks to that ultimate. So it's going to be a tough road for Goblin, who is 5-4-0. He does have Ascent now at 2-0-1 who can back him up. Rift Herald going to be picked up there by E-Thug to start to give the objectives back to Boise State. So we'll see if he can get some plates somewhere, maybe the top lane to help out Ascent. And the Broncos just holding on. That gold lead really hasn't grown. It's 2.7 now, so they've sort of stabilized here as we hit that 10-minute mark.
I think Ethug is, maybe feeling a little bit regretful about staying in that mid lane after Boise State found a victorious fight, ending up going down to Night Raven with a spectacular flash. So I think Ethug's like, all right, I got to rein it in maybe just a little bit. At least that's what we're kind of hoping. Because Ethug's presence is a decent amount for this team at 1-5 for Hurts, and now Goblin's going to be hopped on.
And Goblin going to be caught out there all alone, just trying to farm and get as much gold as he can. So good job there by CU Boulder, recognizing that Ascent not able to find anything onto LoL, and we are going to see him just disengage. But now there's a fight potentially breaking out. They know Ethug is there, so he's going to hop away. The Broncos going to probably have to concede that Rift Scuttle and just walk away.
And Boise State at least trying to pick up some pressure in the mid lane, but Syndra is back home. And the Rift Herald's going to be coming out in the mid as well. Trying to pick up that first tower of the game. Will she get a single charge off?
I don't think so.
No, it did not look like it. She got burned down before she could even move in on that tower. So very few plates taken by Boise State comparatively.
See, they're going to catch one Tyler out, though he is going to get stunned. No cleanse this time. Bolt time going to be used to pick up one. Night Raven trying to walk away. There's a teleport on the back line from Matthijs. There's also a teleport coming in as well from Ascent. Night Raven is incredibly low. Goblin trying to get in range there for the Q. He has a Syndra behind him. Bush is going to cut vision, but no, that's going to be a kill picked up for Goblin. The ult's going to be used as well as the stun, so Matthijs is going to trade that one for one. And Boise State, they're just trying to give Goblin as many kills as possible. He actually picked up 2 there, so he is 7 and 6 on the misfortune. And he is, right now, Boise State's carry.
He is. You definitely don't want to give those kills over to Matthijs, though, because looking at the other side, that is where Goblin's getting taken down every single time. Great response roams from Matthijs on the Syndra, able to just single rotation destroy Goblin, who needs to stay alive a little bit longer. Picking up a couple of kills is fantastic, but if you don't have the pressure in the lane, as we can see going behind tower there on that bottom side, definitely makes it a little bit of a struggle. But Boise State, again, their mental's not broken, still making some spectacular plays, just maybe going in a little too far, knowing that the Syndra is relatively built at the moment.
Yeah, looks like a tower plate was just missed in the top lane for CU Boulder, so Boise State will survive that. First tower has not been taken down yet. Dragon is spawning soon in under a minute, so I'll be curious to see if Boise State is feeling about fighting around this one or not. Have to wonder who the ult target for Ascent's going to be. It's probably between either one Tyler or maybe the Syndra, just to try and save the amount of damage Goblin is taking. So I'll be really curious to see how Ascent wants to play this. He is level 11, highest in the game, so he is going to have some priority on where he goes and how Boise State takes this next fight.
They gotta watch out where Matthijs is. We've got vision at least being cleared out by both teams. They can acknowledge that he is in the bottom lane, and they've actually got Ascent hanging out down there to try to keep some pressure on. A lot more survivability, and as you mentioned, that level 11 gives a bit of an opportunity to get some more damage down and take a considerable amount more before going down. In the meantime, Boise State might be finding themselves in the fight here in the river.
Ton of damage going to go on to Dean. He's tanking enough to survive all of it, but with the Dragon spawning soon and the tower being taken down by LoL, you have to think Boise State wants to fight. Looks like Ethug's going to try and jump on Night Raven. He's going to get the Wild Growth and take him down just at the very end. Ornhorn has been used as a teleport's going to come out. There's the curtain call from one Tyler. Carson is low, has to flash away. He's in the Death Realm now. Ascent hunting down his target, but Matthijs is in on the back line. There's the Lamb's Respite from Ethug, going to help them survive. You see one Tyler's in the background as well. Goblin picks up one on to LoL. Ethug just barely survives. There's Ascent, though. He's running down one Tyler. Now his token's going to turn to a Tice. Unfortunately, misses the Q, but a nice shutdown from Ethug. A nice flash, and Lulu picks up one. Boise State Gearly gets the ace thanks to a respawn from Karma, and they flip that around, and they're right back in this game.
Picking up their first Dragon of the game, but you know what? It's only the second Dragon overall here at 16 minutes. Boise State doing a spectacular job with Night Raven, poking in there, trying to see if they could get a steal in, but no, Boise State's going to secure that one. In the meantime as well, in this mid lane, tried to pick up their first tower in response to the first one being taken from the top side. While that engage, or before that engage occurred, they do not have enough time, it looks like, as we can see Carson making his way up around the top side. Boise State might actually have a response to that.
They might actually be able to find Graves. He's going to dash over the wall. He wants to find Ethag. Unfortunately, I don't know if he knows that the rest of the team is there. Nice body block from Dean. Unfortunately, not going to be able to stop the Karma. Goblin's trying to pick up one. Unfortunately, he is going to be taken out. Now, Red Hots has been caught in the bot lane all alone. He's going to be taken out. And unfortunately for Boise State, they are going to trade that 3-for-1 across the map, and not something you wanted to see there for Boise State after they've just gotten back in the game.
And pressure now on the bottom side as well for CU Boulder. The Buffaloes might find themselves their second tower of the game, and third, in fact, as they are able to respond by pushing in this mid side, already having a little bit of pressure from minions there. That's going to be two, and Boise State falling behind now on these objectives and these pick fights. This is exactly what Lovely was talking about, how CU Boulder, the Buffaloes have a much more pick-oriented team than Boise State do, even given the Mordekaiser and someone like Goblin on the misfortune there. It is Adams. Okay. Thanks. We got a little note. Thank you for that. We always appreciate that. No one had to properly say your name. If it's too complicated, though, I blame you. It's not my fault. But both of these teams doing a great job. Boise State seeming to do much better on the 5v5s. CU Boulder, the second that the Broncos split, those Buffaloes are able to take advantage.
They're going to try and dive onto Ascent. He is going to take Carson into the Death Realm. There's a tower still shooting at him, so he's barely going to be able to survive that one. Actually takes Carson down as it fades. Boise State was there for backup. Nice block on the Ornhorn there by Dean. He's going to get knocked up. Bullet time going to be used by Goblin, safely hiding in a bush. Curtain call now being used as Goblin picks up one. They'll trade that one out for Ethug. You see Night Raven incredibly low. Tice trying to come in on the back line there, but Boise State's going to smartly disengage. Now they want to jump in onto the Cinder, who has no cooldowns available. Goblin trying to find one. Unfortunately, he's going to get caught between three members of CU Boulder. And now Night Raven and one Tyler going to chase down Dean. He's going to get a huge snipe onto the Jin. Karma just absolutely gave up on her support, and Dean might be able to win this one. Unfortunately, the Q misses and just barely able to pick that one up. And now there's a teleport being automatically committed. Ascent has respawned. I'll be curious to see if he can get in range of anyone. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do so. So a teleport used there by Boise State, and the Broncos going to leave two low health members of the Buffaloes back.
Ooh, very, very low members, that's for sure. Addis getting down so low on that one, and actually just barely re-engaging and coming back to save Night Raven. And I feel like that Q, the final Q from Dean, went right in between those two members. I think recognizing, Addis is now a part of this fight too. Either of them can be killed with a single one of my Qs, and ended up tossing it in between the two players. But still a valiant effort there. Dean picking up two in the overall on that, really cleaning up after some members who had gone down from the Broncos.
You can feel like Boise State is just that close. Unfortunately, Ascent had that tower sort of helping out Carson there. We still don't see a QSS being picked up by anyone. It seems like Graves has been his focus target. You see Addis, though, at 11, 3, and 4. He is the main damage for the side of CU Boulder, so I'll be curious to see how Boise State wants to deal with him. If they are going to start shifting their focus, if they're going to start having Ascent try and ult him into the Death Realm to keep Goblin alive, because right now, if Goblin's allowed to just free fire on the back line of CU Boulder, they are not surviving very long. As Ethug might want to try and jump in here. There's Addis and the rest of CU Boulder right there, and that is going to quickly disengage Boise State. Unfortunately, now Ascent has to be careful. You can see the pings coming out. Ornhorn going to be used there. He's not going to be able to dodge it. He will get knocked up in the air. Curtain call going to be used as well, and it looks like Ascent's going to have to just eat that one. And a great rotation down by CU Boulder.
Boise State, in the meantime, trying to get some pressure here in the mid lane, but they have to know that CU Boulder is on the hunt now. They're not taking a long way around. They're going down towards the Raptors, and they have the mobility and the movement speed to engage on this. Boise State gets the tower, though.
Try and blow everything onto Carson. He's just barely able to survive. Now Ethug's going to have to force to flash away from the root. He is going to get Wild Growth. He will get stunned away by Addis, who's still looking for a way back in as the Wild Growth is now off. But it looks like Boise State's smartly going to take the long way around. Maybe they want to re-engage onto the Cinder, who's all alone. You see the pings going out there onto the Kindred, who at last check did have 5 stacks of the mark. It looks like Boise State, they want to hop onto the Baron with the backs coming out for CU Boulder, and the teleport committed by LoL. This is going to be a fight. Unfortunately, Carson is back in the back line. He has no way to get in. It looks like the Broncos going to be forced to disengage there. Addis has now come as well. A nice call by Boise State, but here comes a re-engage potentially from CU Boulder as Baron is going to fully reset.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that teleport coming through, then it might have been more successful to engage on a fight, but A very good call by Boise State. Good engage and good disengage there. And CU Boulder making a very, very quick move on to respond to that is also solid. They already know just Addis's presence is enough to send back multiple members of Boise State. We just saw what 5 collapsing on Ascent, the highest level champion or the highest level player was in the game, but now just on Boise State. Just get obliterated. You hope at least a little bit more survivability is there. And so a lot of that being Addis on one of these high-played champions, one of his favorites apparently is what we're hearing. Gonna just melt Ascent.
Yeah, Sense forced to Death Realm. Unfortunately, Carson had more than enough damage to be able to finish him off. And now the curtain call is going to come out. Stun's going to land on Red Hot. Dean going to do his best attempt to block there. Bullet time on to Addis. He's going to drop low. Unfortunately, they can't quite finish him off. Ornhorn going to be used from the side. It's going to knock just Dean up in the air, and he's going to be able to dash away. Lamb's Spite has been used. Going to keep Ethug alive for now. He's trying to dash to safety, but a nice knock up there by LoL, and Addis is going to pick up that one. Goblin nearly gets taken down, but he is able to get some revenge. He gets a shutdown on to Addis before flashing away, so Boise State doesn't go home empty-handed. It's a 1 for 2, and it's even more gold now onto that misfortune.
What a double up there from Goblin, and then the flash away. I was watching Goblin. My eyes were glued to Goblin that entire fight, just trying to stay as far down from that fight and distanced but close enough to pop in some autos when available, and he did a spectacular job knocking down the backline from fully engaging and following up the Ornn, and then attempting, or actually very well successfully knocking down that Ornn when it was within kite range and easier to get to than that backside. So just you can tell the communication, the camaraderie between these guys right now is very solid, even though it started as an incredibly rough game for them, even though they are at 2/3 the kills that CU Boulder is currently at. They are making things work very, very well. And that goal differential has minimally adjusted throughout the entirety of this game. I'm incredibly surprised that it hasn't really gone over 4 or 5K throughout the entirety.
Yeah, Boise State holding strong, just over 3K gold lead for CU Boulder, but you can see that a lot of those shutdowns that Goblin has picked up has allowed him to remain ahead of one Tyler in terms of items. You see 3 finished there for the misfortune. The Jin still working on a combination of his second. He has picked up the Executioner's Calling as well to try and limit some of the healing coming out from Boise State, but he's sitting at 4, 4, and 15 is not going to be very gold efficient. We see once again Ascent in the bot lane. He's going to try and get that turret, but you see Jin and Graves hanging around that bot side red buff means that he has got to be careful. And Boise State once again, they're pinging out the Baron. Teleports up on Ascent. It's not up on LoL, but it looks like that might have been a bait as Boise State runs right back to the mid lane.
And you can see that LoL is going to be navigating down to try to prevent Ascent from moving in on that tower. The rest of the team knows exactly what's up. They're going to try to clear out some vision and response. And again, Addis is doing so much damage. They really need to watch the placement of that Syndra on these fights and ensure that she does not get anywhere near Goblin. Without Ascent being there as well, without the Death Realm available, it makes it even scarier.
Boise State's going to once again call the Baron. They're going to go over the wall this time, though, as there was a Rich Scuttle giving away their position. Carson has spotted them out, but as we talked about, there's still no teleport up. It doesn't look like Boise State wants to press the issue note. They note that they're still losing in gold, so they will back. But the Broncos, they are going to make CU Boulder hang around this Baron, because that's now the 3rd time that they pinged that Baron, and the 2nd time they've tried to sneak it in. If it wasn't for Carson rotating down, they would have had that one. So the Buffalo's got to be careful they don't ever walk away too far from that Baron without vision on it.
They have done such a good job, though. If any time Boise State moves that way, anytime Boise State or the Broncos decide to adjust towards one of these major objectives, the Buffaloes are right there.
Curtain call going to come out, going to hit Red Hots a couple of times, and then the last one is going to go on to Ethug. Now Red Hots has to be careful, going to be forced to Wild Growth himself. Lamb's Spite's going to cast out the flash from the Graves, and it's going to heal everyone back up to full. Unfortunately, Addis still going to be able to take down Ethug, and now that might be Baron for the side of CU Boulder.
That's certainly what they wanted in one of these fights. The recalls are there. There are 2 teleports available for Boise State. Several flashes down, but look at the damage. This is what I'm talking about, man. A Syndra, a fed Syndra, is one of the scariest things you can encounter. And while the game goes on, while everyone hits full build, it will be slightly less so, but right now, it is very easy to feed Addis. And now that a Baron has been distributed across every single member of CU Boulder, it looks like Ascent might want to try to change that by taking down LoL, but those are going to be Baron-empowered minions that he is walking directly into.
And we see, looks like a potential Bronco rotation down. We see that Cloud Dragon is spawning in under 30 seconds. Not too much to worry about for Boise State, as it would just be Soul Point that the Buffaloes would be on. They would not be actually getting the Cloud Souls, so they don't have to be too much in a rush to fight over this Dragon, especially with the Crucial Baron going to be on every member of CU Boulder. Teleport now up for LoL, so he can join any fight he wants to if he's caught out of position. Night Raven there nearly gets caught out himself, and looks like Boise State might be going for a sandwich here onto the members of CU Boulder. Scanner's going to come out. Red Turret has been taken down. Teleport committed there by the Ornn. Ascent has just backed into the base, so Boise State unfortunately cannot sandwich anyone. Not quite able to get the spell shield either. And it looks like that mid inhibitor turret is going to fall immediately. Now there's an engage potentially from Boise State. There's the Ornn going to be used by LoL. He's going to be CC, but it's going to be able to re-knock it back into his team. Barely dashes away and survive. Ascent though, he's going to flash for it. He's going to pick up one. Boise State now hunting down the remaining members. Addis is there. He's immediately taken to the Death Realm, but he still has a ton of health. He does not have the ult available. Going to try and get the knockback onto Ascent. Lands the stun as well. But that's another shutdown. Ascent just barely able to survive, and Boise State takes down 2 members of CU Boulder, and they're going to potentially open themselves up here for a Dragon or another pick with Addis on cooldown for about 36 seconds.
That's going to knock that the Baron buff off of several members as well. Now Carson is going to be the next one to be jumped on, and Ascent uses that teleport.
Lambs Spike going to come out.
Oh, what a Lambs Spike.
Keep the Kindra alive. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Goblin picks one up. Unfortunately, Carson is going to be able to get the kill, but it kind of works out in Boise State's favor since the shutdown onto Ascent. And with both junglers down, the Broncos going to pick up the Cloud Drake, and they're going to even things up and once again just remain on the coattails of this game. Still down by about 5K gold, but they're hanging in there, and they're winning fights.
What a game. This is pretty insane. We now, I don't think, have any Baron buffs on any of these members of CU Boulder. Less than a minute left on that. As you can see, the crucial Baron timer in the top right-hand corner is at 40 seconds down, so not a big difference there. But you know what? While Boise State did find themselves successful in that fight, they allowed their base to be broken into heavily. It was a risky play. Had they gone down, that would have been the end of the game. CU Boulder would have pushed this to a game 3. So again, I think a really big point that I keep making and I just can't stop is the Buffalo's response time is amazing. And clearly I've been commending Boise State's communication, but obviously when it comes to response times, you gotta have that communication at top tier, and the Buffaloes certainly are playing that game very, very well so far tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a game 3 on this one. I would be stoked to see how these teams do with a third pick on comms.
Yeah, we were heading that way, and it feels like we've been heading that way for about the last 20 minutes in terms of CU Boulder always being in control, but the Broncos' ability to stay alive, and we saw the blueprint to how they can get back in this. It's got to probably revolve around Ascent alting Addis, keeping that damage off of his team. We are going to see that the Luden's Echo was upgraded for the Syndra. It's something we see occasionally. You see the Rabadon's in the first slot. I don't know if that was a miscommunication and the Ornn upgraded the item too soon, or if it's something he wanted, because you almost always upgrade Rabadons when it is an AP caster. So curious choice there by CU Boulder, but that still is going to be a ton of damage that Syndra is going to be able to put out onto one member.
Always, always. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this Syndra was, early countered. I wouldn't say banned out necessarily, but mid lane specifically toast if it does go to a game 3 of just negating that Syndra, because Addis, again, on one of his favorite champions, that's always a big deal, especially as mid laner. There's so many potential carries, and Syndra is always consistently, at least in some part of the meta, very, very strong champion. So CU Boulder now using the bit of movement speed that they've got to clear out Boise State jungle. The Broncos did have a decent amount of ward's vision in the red side of that blue jungle, but it is almost down now and really didn't provide them much of anything.
Well, we see the Barons have all fallen off. There really is an objective to fight over on the map, which is going to allow Boise State to just sort of farm up their minions, try and keep that gold lead close, start to finish some of the items as they are behind in most of the lanes. We do see that Goblin is working on his final item. One Tyler only has 3 to his name, so that's the win condition now for Boise State. The BF Sword probably tells me it's another GA for him on the Misfortune. You see the Spirit Visage picked up by Ascent. He's finished the Gnasher's Tooth as well, so he is going to try and survive as much of Addis's burst as he can. And if Boise State can find a way onto their stat Syndra, there's not a ton of damage left for CU Boulder as he has been getting those picks and putting them in 5v4s.
And Goblin has been doing just a phenomenal job of focusing down, trying to keep Addis in check, and really mirroring positioning in how they are using their frontline engagers. Both of them really just with the top laners, the Ornn and the Mordekaiser on these two teams. And it will certainly come down to one good fight, I feel, on this one. No objectives left are needed to at least break into CU Boulder's base or push back through Boise State. As now they have a good portion of these lanes really evened out, actually. The Buffaloes are going to have an advantage soon.
Damage on the Dean. Curtain Call going to be used. Goblin has to be careful. If one Syndra ult lands, that is a dead Misfortune. Boise State going to smartly disengage there. Got just a Curtain Call on cooldown. You see Baron is up. Dragon is spawning in under a minute. Neither team really going to be too worried about the Dragon. Not only is it Cloud Drake, but it's not sole point for anyone. And Boise State going to be allowed to just back here. And if Goblin can finish that GA before the next fight, I have to think Boise State is going to be more than happy with at least having him a second chance if he gets caught out by the Syndrome.
And trying to engage another fight around Baron or Dragon like they've done in the past. Boise State finding a lot of success in those fights. Not so much when they try to catch a single member out or aren't quite as organized on the engagement. So hopefully they stick with that. CU Boulder will certainly be looking for the picks.
Spell shield up on Carson. He is going to smoke screen out Ascent. He is able to get away and not get stunned. The Broncos trying to set up. Now with the cooldowns off for Syndra, you saw Ascent faint like he was going to go in, but nothing's going to come of it. You see, everything is going to be online. Every summoner spell, every single ultimate except the Curtain Call will be available. If the Buffaloes win this fight, you have to think it's GG. If the Broncos win, depending on if they can get a shove. You see, mid lane is shoving towards their inhibitor. The Broncos make the call. They're going to go for Baron. Instead of the inhibitor defense, they're going to pull Addis off of it, and now it comes down to the steal. It's Kindred versus Graves. Death Realm going to be used onto Addis. He's going to stun up Ascent and try and just survive. Ascent taken low. Not quite able to get enough damage onto that Syndra as the Death Realm's going to fade. A double stopwatch comes out to keep them both alive, and Ascent picks it up onto Syndra at the last possible second. Wild Growth keeps them alive. A shutdown's going to go on to him, but the bullet time turns the fight. Lamster's Bite keeps Boise State alive as Boulder goes running for the hills. Curtain Call is used. Block by Dean. Oh, he gets the snipe! Etha got a little bit too confident and left the comfort of the shield, and now Boise State, they're going to lose Red Hots as well as they back for the base. Goblin gets stopped, and Carson starting the back door. You thought Boise State had it. One Tyler going to be able to use the stopwatch. Carson has taken down the mid inhibitor. They are going to lose Karma and Jin, but Graves is now split pushing as Boise State has to be forced to retreat. Carson probably just going to die here as he is absolutely incredibly low. He's going to try and dash away, put as much damage onto the turret as he can. He has drawn turret aggro. Will be taken out. Good job there by Goblin to get rid of all the minions, give the turret the armor buff. And what a fight for Boise State, and what a pair of Zanyas by the Ascent and Addis to keep this game just still rolling.
That was pretty incredible. It appeared to be, I was like, would the Lamster's fight go? Was that a Bartle from somewhere? Great timing. I love also Dean's nice little steal there towards the end. It could have been a double kill easy for Goblin after the Zonias was popped on Addis, and instead it was taken by Dean's Q. Boise State already half down HP on this Baron. It does look like they're going to successfully pick that one up. Every single member was able to grab that, but looks like CU Boulder has a retort.
Yeah, they're going to have the Ornn Horn, not able to redirect it. Dean taken low. He's able to dash to safety. Addis incredibly low, but he gets a snipe onto Red Hots, and Boise State's going to lose one of those crucial Barons and probably retreat, not being able to find the Syndra. Cloud Drake on the board, but you can see neither team really cares about it. Addis has got to be careful. He's one good pick away, but the Baron and called back is going to come out for Boise State. They're just going to reset.
4 members still holding on to that Baron buff. They do have pressure in the top lane, as we can see. That Dragon's going to be jumped on by CU Boulder. It's about time somebody picks it up now that Baron is down for the second time this game. almost 2.5 minutes left on that buff. And it looks like there's some pigs coming out from the Broncos. They want to focus on that push in top lane. It's a risky play, though, because their Nexus turrets are exposed.
Yeah, lane's pushing, so there's not going to be much that CU Boulder can do, but at this point, if Boise State loses one fight, it is game over, and we're heading to game number 3. Doesn't look like the Broncos able to find anything there. They're just going to be able to take the River Scuttle and disengage, and Boise State has got to be careful. That Baron is starting to wear off, and CU Boulder playing it perfectly. They're just going to wait for that to fall off and then maybe re-engage. LoL has the teleport available. The Broncos trying to go for a sandwich, but that warding is going to allow CU Boulder to stay nice and safe. But Ethug, he's going to get dangerously close. Oh, that stun would have been GG.
They're so rough. That stun is so rough. And it is so impressive as well when you're consistently able to land them at the right angle. People don't acknowledge how much skill it does take to actually angle that E properly, because you have to hit the ball perfectly at the enemy. It's not just a sweep aside in a stun, it is a sweep damage with an individual stun there on whoever the ball hits. Boise State now throwing that Baron buff onto multiple lanes. Lots of focus here on the top side, as that's where they've had a lot of this pressure.
They want to engage. As Ascent's not in the fight, Ornorn's going to be used. Goblin going to be taken out immediately. Not even the Wild Growth could save him. Lamb's Respite was still available. Ascent is now joined, but Boise State is without their misfortune. Damage going to come out onto Ethug and Dean. He's going to Lamb's Respite to stay alive. Going to heal up Carson as well. Addis picks up one. Another one for LoL, and unfortunately for Boise State, this is going to be game. Ascent going to try and do all that he can. Nice Zanyas there by Addis to keep him alive in the death realm. Ascent will do the same to try and burn time, but it's not going to be enough. That's an ace for CU Boulder, and we are heading to game number 3.
I had a feeling Boise State was holding on strong, but CU Boulder is so confident in these engages. Addis likely not going to be able to get onto that Cinder, at least not in a comfortable manner. I had talked about it before. I wouldn't be surprised if that was an early ban or an early counter, because I don't want to say hard carry by that Syndra, but so well played. Boise State really couldn't do much about it.
Yeah, and it was a really good job by CU Boulder. As we see, the bullet time not quite able to do much but kill Addis, but it's not going to matter. There's still 4 members there, and they will take down the Nexus. It was a really good job and a really good call by the Buffaloes. They found that Goblin was in a spot he could be picked, and that immediately turned the fight for CU Boulder. Well, if you're interested in the Rocky Mountain Warfare Run Back, it's coming your way November 6th and 7th. The Warzone Duos Tournament Part 2 is on the way in just a matter of a week. It was a ton of fun last time we had it at the start of October. I know we had a ton of people who were in it. I know we had a ton of people in the chat who kept regretting that they weren't able to join. So if you're interested in Part 2 of the Rocky Mountain Warfare, check out the Idaho Army National Guard on any of their social media links there at the bottom of the page and get registered for the Duos Warzone Tournament coming up November 6th and 7th. You don't want to miss out. You don't want to be that guy in chat who's like, well, I couldn't find a Duos partner. Look, we've given you plenty of time. We've even given you a second chance, so make sure you get registered and you get in for this event. Right now, we're getting ready for game number 3, Jolly. As you mentioned, it really felt like Boise State, they were just hanging on. They had one team fight. They kept themselves alive for about 10 minutes, but unfortunately, one pick onto Goblin, and that was all she wrote, as Boise State immediately fell right after.
Just a spectacular game. When it first started, we're like, all right, this is a rough one for Boise State. They made some questionable engages, but it looked so overpowering on how CU Boulder was going through with those. I do think it's going to adjust some of the picks and bans. I don't think CU Boulder will put as much thought into that one, but I think the Graves would actually maybe be another one, a solid one to ban out. We don't necessarily want Carson to get that a third time in a row. It's been successful both times in feeding these lanes, and Addis on that Syndra, that can't come back through.
Yeah, I would think that the Syndra will not see the light of day. With Boise State losing, you'd have to think the Broncos would pick blue side, and maybe they just first pick the Graves this time, and maybe either leave the Lilia up to Carson or they ban away the Lilia as well as the Syndra. So I would be more thinking along the lines that they're just going to first pick that Graves, use it as sort of a pseudo fourth ban. But yeah, I don't think that the Syndra can come back, and I would be really shocked if they give Carson that Graves back once again.
And Boise State likely going to pick the blue side again. The meta has kind of changed back to blue side being a bit of a priority. It had shifted a little bit ago over the summertime for adjusting to that red side to get some of those counter picks as well. But now we're coming back to the point of, that first pick essentially being another ban and a good addition to your team, because there are enough strong champions currently in the meta that you can overpower a composition that the other team is trying to build just based on that. It looks like we're doing a poll in the chat as well for who's going to win. Oh, no, we're just asking. We're not necessarily doing a poll. They might throw a poll in there. But it is a tiebreaker now, and this is the first game here in this portion of the tournament. So Boise State wants to carry on that undefeated record.
Yeah, I mean, this is one and done. This is single elimination. So not only do the Broncos want to keep up that undefeated record, they want to make sure they can advance to the next round of this tournament. The winner will be playing the winner of Purdue and Hawkeye Community College. As we take a look at some of the replays here for Boise State, and it was an impressive showing by Goblin. He got a ton of shutdowns early, and he was really the reason that he kept Boise State in the game. But this was a part where you even talked about it, Jolly. Yes, it's a good job getting the pick onto Night Raven, but he just handed that 300 gold over to Addis that probably resulted in an item being built that spelled demise for him later in the game. So not something that I maybe think was worth it for Boise State. Aggressively diving and leaving a lot of kills on the table for Addis and Carson to pick up.
And Addis consistently being ahead on those kills as well, and typically ahead in items up until the end of the game. And even then, I think might have actually had the statistical advantage on that one. But some spectacular responses from Boise State. I think another thing to touch on that's very important is you mentioned the Kindred would be a bit of a struggle if those Lamb's Respites weren't spot on. They were so spot on. Every single Lamb's Respite that we saw there coming from Ethug was spectacular. So while I wouldn't necessarily like to see that Kindred come into the next game, it was played very, very well.
Yeah, you have to wonder if they will ban it. It's something that they took away from Carson in game number 1. It's something that he's played a fair bit of recently in solo queue. I will say, unfortunately for Boise State, the Lamb's Respite didn't come down in time to save Goblin on that very last fight. I don't know if Ethug wasn't in range. Like I said, it was a really, really good pick onto Goblin that kind of caught him off, and I don't think Boise State was quite ready as Ascent had to teleport in. So I wouldn't be shocked if we just see Graves, Liliac run back. Boise State probably takes either the Lily or the Graves and leaves Carson to have the other one. Those are two of the stronger junglers we've seen in recent games in this tournament. But yeah, I would not think the Kindred will come back, and I'd have to think that the Syndra will be taken away, because talk about QSS, Zanyas does a really good job of shutting down the Death Realm, because it usually saved him from getting killing blowed by Ascent and kept him alive long enough for the Death Realm to fade and him to get back to his team.
Yeah, that is definitely a choice that you can make between those two items, depending on really how you want to do it, because, the ability of the QSS means that you can re-engage very quickly in the fight. So I guess that's the upside to that, as opposed to kind of stalling it out or preventing him from being able to use it on you. The combination of the two, I can assume, would be if they are just dominating you, but that would be a way to completely shut him down. That was such a spectacular curtain call as well. Right when Dean's shield dropped, he didn't even move the positioning to try to adjust for that. I think everyone just kind of assumed line up behind the Braum. And these picks are what done it. Glovely touched on it before the game even started, that last time both teams were very pick-oriented compositions. This time it was much more CU Boulder had that pick-oriented comp. So that worked out really well for them. Boise State might have to adjust again.
Yeah, that was a really good job by one Tyler holding on to that fourth shot until the very last moment to be able to, wait for the Braum shield to go down and wait for Ethug to run away from his teams and not be able to be body blocked here, as we see a portion of the Collegiate League of Legends Invitational here in the first round. You see the Broncos there at the bottom side of the screen on the right-hand side taking on Colorado. They are headed to game number 3. They will take on the winner of this game. Will take on the winner of Purdue and Hawkeye Community College. And you see there at the top left-hand screen, the other Mountain West team that got an invite, Nevada, is taking on NC State. If they win, they would presumably play the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, UC Irvine. So not going to be an easy road for the Wolfpack. We'll see if they can advance. We'll see if Boise State can at least give the Mountain West one representative here in the next round as we get into game number 3 relatively shortly, and be curious to see how Boise State wants to build this comp and what they're going to do, because I think it felt like CU Boulder was ready for that Lulu and Mordekaiser you see there. 32 teams, single elimination, seeded from conference play. The Broncos, the number 4 seed. And you see a look at some of the high-profile schools in this tournament: Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State, UC Irvine, all very top-tier League of Legends teams competing here for a chance at glory. And the Broncos right now and the Buffaloes trying to get past the first round in a very, very heated game.
Lots of great schools, teams in this, and I think the most exciting part of it for me is there are a lot of schools and teams that we haven't really seen much from yet. So a lot of growth in the collegiate esports community. That's not the right logo. We've still got another game against CU Boulder, and Boise State did end up picking that blue side. Starting out with very similar bans. These are quite reminiscent of the last 2 games. And not that one, though. That's a respect ban.
There's the Syndra. They don't want to put him on that. There's the Lilia. You have to wonder if the Buffaloes want to leave Graves up or not. The Broncos could still potentially ban away the Kindred that they took away in game number 1 if they want to. Maybe taking down the There's the Kindred, so they're definitely going to make sure Carson's not on that, and I would be shocked if the Hecarim ban comes out if this is not a first pick Graves for Boise State. It's actually Nidalee, though.
It's a Nidalee. They forgot to ban out the Nidalee. They focused on that Lilia that was picked a little bit earlier on. Clearly, it was something that Ethog wanted to get his hands on, so he got it. And the sad part about all of this, though, is that in place of the previous Samira bans that we saw from Boise State, the Syndra was thrown in, and that Samira was picked up. And of all the players we were talking about, just keeping an eye on, one Tyler and LoL have been 2 of the top people, and definitely enjoying this Samira, playing pretty well on her.
Yeah, and he played a ton of it recently in his solo queue games. We've seen the Ornn every single game coming out from LoL. Ash going to be picked up this time by Goblin, not banned away, so he is going to have the ADC that he has been most comfortable on, as we are in game number 3 in this best of 3. So the winner moves on to the next round. The loser, unfortunately, will go home. The Buffaloes winning game number 2 to take us to this point, and there's that Camille picked in. And I'll be really curious to see if this is Boise State trying to run it back with the Malphite in the mid lane.
I do like the idea behind that pick, but Boise State's going to have to make it through another ban phase if they want to be able to snag it. And likely it will be on the Buffaloes' radar. We can see the lock-in for the Leona there to be paired with the Samira. I guess I've seen Samira in my own games, but I haven't seen enough higher tier Samira play to really know who works best with her. I can imagine that Leona hard CC, though, will allow for a lot of engages, and you've got the Ornn as well, so that seems like a solid team fight comp already lined up to back up this Samira.
See the Braum and the Akali band going to be taken there. There's that Morgana. This time it is the Buffaloes that are banning that away from Dean. Still going to have some choices, potentially the Thresh available. There's that Karthus, something else that Carson has played relatively well in his solo queue games. Not going to be an option to him. Have to think he's going to take the Graves as he's been so strong on it. And Boise State really did nothing to stop him from picking it. So I'll be curious to see what they're going to put in the bot lane for Boise State and what we're going to see from Ascent and Red Hots on that potential Malphite Camille run back again, because clearly the Buffaloes totally okay with that Malphite not banning it away.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the Graves as well. Oh, wow, the Olaf. All right, I was going to say, the Nidalee is certainly more comfortable going into a Graves than someone like the Lilia that we saw before. An Olaf feels very comfortable going into a Nidalee. And Olaf, this whole composition, it seems like, is just trying to set up for Samira to get hard carried. You've got 3 heavy tanks following up this first Samira pick, and this seems like something that these guys do pretty consistently. Alistar is going to be the support chosen here by Dean.
Yeah, the Alistar will be an interesting one, not something we've seen him on a ton. We'll be curious to see if this is going to be the Malphite picked in, as there is still, once again, a lot of AD on the side of the Buffaloes, but they have not picked a mid laner yet. Of course, they can't go back to the Syndra. Would highly doubt he's going to go on to the Lucian. But it's going to be the Cassiopeia this time, so Boise State really opened up the floodgates. Least tanky team we've ever probably seen them play, so I'll be very curious to see how the Buffaloes want to respond in the mid lane.
into this incredibly tanky team that we've got. I was actually going to say the Cassiopeia would probably work out really well for the Buffaloes, so it was a very good pickup there by the Broncos to not only secure a high damage, high scaling champion, and hey, you know what? That was the other one. I should just start kind of considering that maybe I might have some idea of what I'm talking about. The Orianna as the lock in there. So a solid amount of CC, a good amount of poke, and a good early game as well is going to allow for the focus to stay towards that bottom side. And Orianna's just going to be able to hopefully do her own thing as long as this cast doesn't get too crazy.
Yeah, going to have a couple of ball delivery systems either with the Ornn, with the Leona, maybe even if Tyler's feeling a little confident when he dashes in, maybe even have that on him for the extra armor and magic resist as well. So really a lot that Boise State has to be ready for. So I'm going to be very curious to see what the Broncos want to do as we take one last look at Doc's keys to the game heading into this winner-take-all game number 3, an engaged champion for Ethug. Play for the objectives, stay tanky, which is something the Broncos probably aren't going to do too much of besides Dean on that Alistar, and press their lead, something they did in game number 1 and never had the chance to in game number 2. It's all brought to you by Count. If you want to stay safe online, check them out at count.com, at KOUNT.com. Well, to help break things down for game number 3, we're going to have Glovely joining us here. And Glovely, what are you seeing as we head into our winner-take-all match?
Going into this match, first thing I noticed is that on the side of Colorado, they've built themselves up a very engage-heavy composition with Samira, Ornn, Leona, Olaf, all champions that can go in very easily. The Orianna, of course, will support that with the shockwave that she puts up. So a very hard-engaged, team-fight-oriented composition. Boise State, on the other side, very much a pick-oriented composition. A lot of their champions are great at hunting down a target and assassinating them, erasing them, a single target. The Ashe, the Camille, Alistar, all really great at singling out those champions. One very interesting pick, I thought, was the Cassiopeia. Not because of her offensive presence, but because of her defensive presence. She can throw out the poison, the miasma, and that will prevent abilities like Leona, like her charges and dashes from being able to engage on the side of Boise State. So you have a lot of defense preventing opponents from coming in at you. So very smart adaptation there. Looking at the bot lane, as you can see here, two very important champions to look at, Ashe and Samira. Both of them very good AD carries. Samira is one that we've seen banned away every game so far, and for good reason. She's very powerful in the current patch, and very quickly scales up her damage if she gets ahead. Leona with Samira, very powerful lane because you have the ability to get that early aggression, get those early kills, and start scaling up quicker and quicker.
And Glovely, what do you think we're going to see in game number 3 in terms of the early game? Because game number 1 was about 10 minutes of just, you farm out your lane. We didn't really see any action until we saw a big dive bot lane that ended up being turned around by an unstoppable force. And then game number 2, Boise State tried to invade the jungle. They lost that fight, and that kind of snowballed against them. Do you think we'll see a slower game number 3, or do you think the Broncos going to try and invade once again and hopefully find that they get the right targets and maybe win a smite battle?
Early on, I think both of these junglers, very powerful champions. I do think Nidalee needs to watch out. I do that Olaf has the better duel potential if they do catch each other out. But both of these junglers, very quick, very early game oriented, very good at picking off their targets. So that's something to watch out for. But also, both teams do have the ability to fight incredibly early on. They bring their crowd control with them. Personally, I think that Colorado's side has a bit stronger early on because of the Leona, that very reliable stun on the Shield of Daybreak. Or alternatively, the Zenith Blade, if you're trying to use her to get a longer range engage. So you have a much stronger crowd control option than the Alistar, who has to get up much closer, but can knock up multiple members. So I'd say coin toss either way. Personally, I like Colorado's ability to get into the opposing jungle better.
Well, with you saying that you are maybe favoring the Buffaloes, Glovely, I would say quickly, as it is Boise State CU Boulder game number 3, right around the corner, winner take all. What does Boise State need to do to win this game and advance to the next round?
They're going to need to burn down Olaf very quickly, or otherwise their backline is going to disappear.
Well, Glovely, thank you very much, and we'll have to see how this comes down. It was a dominating Boise State win in game number 1. It was I don't want to say dominating, but the Buffaloes led all of the way in game number 2, and now we go into game number 3. Winner takes all and advances to the round of 16 in the Collegiate League of Legends Fall Invitational. Loser goes home, and Boise State right now setting up to do maybe something at least aggressive, or at least be ready for a potential 5-man dive here. No ward. It's going to be checked with the other toe, but the team's going to fight anyway. Zenith played onto the back line. Night Raven can't get away. He's been ignited, flashes, but it's not going to matter. That's first blood over to Boise State. Dean barely lives the ignite, and Boise State by 10 HP gets first blood.
Well, that could have gone much worse for Boise State. Also could have gone much worse for CU Boulder. They didn't quite make the same mistake that the Broncos made last time of attempting to continue that engage. But Boise State feeling pretty good, getting that extra 500 across the board as everybody participated in that kill.
We do see that the Buffaloes potentially setting up for a re-invade here onto the Nidalee, despite losing that first fight. We did see all summoners blown by both supports and the flash used by Carson, but that's not going to slow down the Buffaloes. They are going to engage. There's a ward down there. Boise State was more than ready for that, as you see Ethug's already on his blue buff. So unfortunately for the Buffaloes, all they'll find is a red, and now the question becomes if it's vertical juggling or not. But one Tyler's got to be careful. Goblin's going to get a couple of slows onto him. Hex Flash used there by Dean. Unfortunately not quite able to find anything. We're going to see the Zenith blade onto Goblin, but one Tyler incredibly low now to start this lane off, and has no health potion, so Boise State might be able to find another kill here as we see some vertical juggling coming out from both sides.
Yeah, that move was made. Good communication from Boise State. And yes, one Tyler did have a couple of pots, burned them both. Another Zenith Blade, but still only level 1, so no hard stun to follow that one up. And Goblin feels pretty good about this one. However, again, one Tyler is on his most recent favorite champion. He has been a force to be reckoned with throughout this series tonight. This is the game that's gonna spell it all out for the rest of the tournament, or at least eliminate one of these teams from moving on. So one Tyler, having gotten his primary champ, he's got something to prove on this one.
Yeah, now they see that Carson's caught out in the jungle. He was doing Krugs. Rotation down from Ethug as well. There's no flash up for the Olaf. Nice headbutt over the wall, as well as the knock-up. And that's another kill for Boise State. They smell more. You see the assistants coming down. Jump onto one Tyler. The Zenith Blade's going to be used for the stun, and that's a kill for Ethug. Gonna heal himself. Night Raven's gonna get the stun and be able to get the kill. Double buff complete, but I don't think Goblin's gonna let him get very far. The Frost Arrow's gonna continuously slow the Leona, and Boise State buff transfer onto the Ash. The Broncos up 4-1.
Feeling good about that one. These Broncos rampaging in, and a solid move as well. Big props to Ethug in not continuing that vertical jungling and deciding, all right, we're going to stop this Olaf from invading our jungle. We want to keep things a little bit safer. We certainly don't want him to get out of hand. So already getting a death onto the Olaf feels really good for this composition to move forward for the Broncos.
You see now, looks like Boise State really wants to try and punish Carson since he never went to blue. We see a little bit of damage in the mid lane, but right now they're going to invade once again on that Olaf. Knocked up in the air. Spear is going to land, but a Zenith Blade tries to stop the damage. Does not matter. Ethug wins the smite battle, wins the jungler battle. Ignite comes out. Good night, Leona. Boise State with a double kill, and one Tyler can do nothing but run away to his tower.
Run away with 3 members of Boise State coming from your very own jungle. Ethug definitely wanted this Nidalee. We let 2 get through. It wasn't just the Samira that got through for CU Boulder. Boise State clearly wanted that Nidalee. We were kind of questioning it, but there is no reason for us to have done that. CU Boulder clearly knew better than us, as Ethug is demolishing right now on this Nidalee, sitting at 3, 1, and 2 everywhere at once, and has shut this Olaf down, or at least has taken him out 2 times already.
Teleport from Ascent, trying to drop on to Addis. Ethug going to throw out the spear. Carson's rotating in. They don't know that Dean's behind us. They're going to jump onto Cassiopeia, force the flash over the wall. There is Dean. Headbutt Pulverize combo going to land, and Carson's going to try and disengage. Conqueror has been procced. He's going to have that extra healing. He's got to be careful. Just barely dodges the spear. Tries to leap in range. Ethug going to ward that one out. Undertow's going to hit, but a huge snipe. Now, meanwhile, Goblin being tower dived. Huge cleanse. Night Raven going to be taken out by the tower, and now one time Tyler has to run away. Didn't get tower aggro though, so he's barely able to survive. Red buff should be able to help Goblin sustain, and right now the Broncos are up nearly 3.5k.
Those buffs just dropping from Goblin as one Tyler backed out of there. So has to be a little bit safer, but now no concern about transferring those over to that Samira. Trying to show off here, and as we can see, now Boise State is saying, all right, we are clearly in jungle control. One Tyler, there we go, picking up that kill, taking Goblin out, and I believe that was a shutdown.
Yeah, nice shutdown over to one Tyler. Probably not something Boise State wanted to see. A nice 200 years coming out there from the Samir, because why not let an AD carry dive under a tower and then run away scot-free? So the Buffaloes do get one back, and as we talked about, that's what Boise State relied on last game, was shutdown after shutdown on the AD carry. So the Broncos not happy to see it, but they still can't complain about an 8-2 kill lead right now.
And the pressure that they've got also across the board, really. There's going to have to be a little bit more focused on staying in lane. Oh no, Goblin's going to get hopped on once again.
Yeah, CU Boulder said, you know what, you were a pain early in the game, but that's another one picked up. Meanwhile, Red Hots and LoL trading back and forth, either one really finding much of an advantage. And you have to like how the Buffaloes, despite the early deficit, have managed to close it down all the way to 1.5 gold, or 1,500 just by focusing on that bot side.
And this is where the tides can turn. If Carson is able to stay alive and continue with these solid engages for the rest of the team, that will allow the damage to tear through this low health Boise State team. The big front line being Dean, but once Dean gets taken out, there are a lot of squishy members that CU Boulder is able to tear through, especially with one Tyler being on that Samira. So they need to continue to focus down Carson. They cannot allow something like that to happen again, because once things start to sway in CU Boulder's favor as the game goes on, it will not be a slight sway. It's going to be a heavy one and very, very difficult for Boise State to come back from.
And you see right now the one thing going in favor of the Buffaloes is that bot lane. Not only did one Tyler get a huge shutdown, but he is also up by 16 CS. So he is going to have that gold advantage as well. Ethug, meanwhile, he's still trying to make Carson's life miserable. He's going to try and counter jungle on the red buff, and it looks like, unfortunately for the Olaf, he's just going to have to give it up, just fully running all the way back to his base before basing. He does not want to get caught out and allow Boise State to really lengthen this gold lead. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Samira is level 6, Ashe only level 5, and there is a BF sword on the side of one Tyler and just some daggers on the side of Goblin, of course, both having a Vamp Scepter, so Boise State very hesitant to fight unless assistance is there. Zenith Blade misses, and Ethug, you would think, might be rotating down after this red buff.
See if that does happen. We can see some movement up. Makes sense there from Dean, trying to get some vision. Actually going to throw some deep vision. And Boise State is moving up towards that dragon. CU Boulder fully aware of what's going on here, and that means that Carson is going to be heading down that way, but Addis just recalled.
Nice dash away there. Looks like Boise State picks up the dragon. Potential re-engage here. Carson is going to maybe be re-engaging. You see the pings come out. Dean now has to be careful. Gets the knock up into the air. Now Night Raven's going to Zenith Blade on the Goblin, who unfortunately found himself in the wrong position. One Tyler wants to keep going. Dashes to Dean. Not going to be able to re-engage with the ultimate, so Boise State trades the dragon for one. And CU Boulder starting to get that bot lane rolling, and Boise State's got to be careful of that Samira.
Rough positioning on that one. It's very smart of Carson to not try to engage or try to go in for the smite steal on that dragon. It would have completely negated the attempt at that gank, and it worked out very, very well, feeding another kill over to one Tyler, starting to stack up the gold and the kills on that Samira. And take a look at the double CS as well that Samira has over Goblin at the moment, thanks to the amount of pressure that has been coming through. One Tyler getting demolished.
Huge spear, caught him lazy backing, and Boise State, that's huge shutdown gold, gonna go over to Ethug and Dean. And Boise State, they let him a little bit back in the game, but that's gonna hurt. Gold lead back to 2K, and Ethug has been playing spectacular this game after a very, very rough start and a rough game on that Kindred last time. But that spear just barely misses onto Addis.
That's all right. You can take a few barely misses when you have some amazing long-range shots like the one we just saw onto one Tyler. Just a half-health spear is all it takes to prevent someone from getting that far ahead. 2-2-2 is what that Samir is sitting at. 3-3-3 on Goblin. That just shows how much of these 14 kills have taken place down towards that bottom side, and 2 kills and 1 kill there on Boise State and Ski Boulder's supports respectively. So much action on the bottom side. They acknowledge how much pressure these players can have. But that also means that Red Hots has just kind of been doing his own thing and likely will start to get far ahead in this trade with the Ornn.
Yeah, Red Hots building a slight little bit of CS lead, but nothing too crazy. Working on that Triforce. Both mid laners have picked up the tier they got us. Double Amp Tome Doran's Ring for Addis. Double Doran's Ring Amp Tome for Ascent. So things are pretty even there. Lol's going to rotate down. He's going to hit the vision and give everybody a quick heads up that E-Thug's in the area and you want to watch out for some flying spears. But once again, you see in the bot lane, Pink's coming out. Goblin is all alone. There's already 2 plates taken down, and Ash is just going to run for the hills. So plates will be given over to the Buffaloes, and one Tyler is going to have a ton of gold as he gets a solo plate there, and there is nothing Goblin can do right now because Boise State does not know if Carson's in the area.
This is the last thing that you want, and it is a smart move because Carson is in fact in the area. We saw the ping come out as there's the deep ward in that second bush towards that bottom red tower, but one Tyler is having no problem hitting this tower for an immense amount of damage and then also clearing out the minions on top of it. Just a busted champion.
Boise State's going to engage. Clen's going to come out from one Tyler. Zenith Blade is going to miss, though. And this is Cassiopeia on the back line. One Tyler gets a shutdown onto Dean, but the Goblin's going to pick it up. No stun going to come out as Ragnarok prevents it from Ascent. E-Thug is there as well. He gets another kill. Boise State trading 2 for 1. Can they pick up one more onto Carson? He's forced to flash away, but I don't think he's going to make it. Boise State goes 3 for 1, and the Broncos got to feel confident.
They certainly do. Putting this Olaf as well at 1-4-1 right now. Beating Goblin over a few more kills. Has a slight advantage now in terms of that over the Samir, and hopefully give them a little bit of pressure and extra gold thanks to these plates. Not quite as much damage from 2 members as a single Samira is able to offer, but 2 minutes left on plates mean at least Boise State is going to be able to select that one. There we can see X-Tech Ultimatum coming out in the mid lane.
X-Tech Ultimatum and not much else. They did get the flash out from Red Hots. Ornn has come bot lane. Ornhorn's going to miss. They're going to try and jump onto Goblin. He will get Zenith Blade and knocked up in the air. He will go down. Good night, Nidalee. Boise State trades 1 for 1. Spear going to miss. Samir rotating mid. Carson coming down. Now the Samir is rotating. Dean's got to be careful. He's caught between an Olaf and a Samira. Doesn't look like there's any engage, though, from the Buffaloes. And the Broncos going to trade 1 for 1.
That was actually very safe timing. So Dean in that bush actually hex flashed over the wall towards the side of the blast cone there, right as Carson moved down. So had it been a moment later, it would have been too late. And Boise State was able to at least save that cow on the bottom side. And the majority of these kills all going, aside from 2 kills, all of them going over to the bot side and this jungle. And E-Thug makes us realize why we can eat our own words in assuming that he only has a 5 to 10 champion pool, depth of a pool, I suppose. It is almost unlimited at this point.
See the 7-1 and 3 Nidalee with the Lich Bane. Of course, if you don't know E-Thug, he's not going to build those support items. He's not going to build the Unseen Holy Grail. He's going to build full damage no matter what he plays. We do see Archangels has now been finished by both mid laners. Addis finished his earlier, mainly because he died, so he got the quick back. So he's going to have his stacking a bit faster in those terms. Can't quite see the stacks overall, but have to think they're close. Cloud Dragon, the next one up, does look like the Buffaloes probably going to pick that one up. Boise State not too concerned. Probably more worried about what the soul is going to be between Infernal and Ocean. It is going to be Ocean, a very, very heavily prioritized soul for both teams. And you'd have to think if either team gets a soul, it is GG. So Dragon's going to become a very interesting fight as this game goes on.
Especially with an Olaf, you do not want that Ocean Soul to be going over to Sea Boulder if you are a Bronco. And that is going to be very, very high priority, obviously, for the Buffaloes. It looks like Red Hots is going to find the second tower of the game. And for the Broncos there on the top side, that means we can finally see a little bit of roam come through from this Camille, very likely. And a potential setup here on the bottom Ripper side.
X-Flash, Solar Flare going to be used, going to be the dodge. Teleport comes out, Ornhorn has been committed, redirected, and it's just going to land onto Dean. And Boise State's going to be able to get away scot-free, so they'll trade the Ornn ult for the teleport on Red Hots. And Boise State going to survive that Death Bush attempt, which Colorado has really been using, and that might be their way back into this game, is getting picks when Boise State doesn't have vision.
That was very, very clean from Boise State, though, in the response. A great attempt by the Buffaloes, but really instantly staunched, squashed. There was nothing that they could do, and a flash burned as well to attempt to the engage there. Goblin forced flash out. In the meantime, oh my goodness, E-Thug taking down this poor Carson.
Yeah, they were going for the rotation on to Addis. Carson was like, hey guys, I'm here. And Boise State's like, okay, you can join the Death Bowl party as well. They'll find Addis as well. So Boise State's got to get a tier 2 bot lane. Unfortunately, in the mid lane is doing what they can as one Tyler and Night Raven have been the one, well, I guess really it's been one Tyler as I see Night Raven 1 and 7. He's not been a shining spot for CU Boulder, but it's all the one Tyler show. I know chat was hyped when he got Samira, and he's got some heavy lifting to do to get CU Boulder back in this game.
I think he has the capacity to do so, but the problem is, you asked Lovely before the game started. You said, what do they have to do to stop this team from winning, even though you think it is a potentially better composition? He said it immediately, stop that Olaf, and we all know that that is the best strategy to go into an Olaf, but my goodness, I was not expecting just this complete interruption onto Carson whenever Boise State has been capable of finding him out, whether it's in their jungle, in his own jungle, trying to gank a lane. They are getting the shutdown on him. 5 of those kills on that Olaf, and only 5 deaths on the Olaf, only 1 kill sitting for him. 17 and 6. That's how these games have been going tonight, though. It is constantly so heavily swayed for this kill spread, but both teams are so resilient and holding on so efficiently.
Yeah, now we'll have to see if Boise State can seal the deal. The Buffaloes quite couldn't, and they allowed Boise State to hang around long enough. As we see a ton of damage on the LoL, going to get hit by the spear as well. He will try and dash away. E-Thug gets shot by the tower. That will change his mind. He'll heal back up to full. But you have to think with a champion like Samira, there's a little bit more of a turnaround potential if she can get fed enough to just kind of 200 years her way to victory for CU Boulder. So the Broncos got to be careful. One Tyler's probably going to be the target. Good news for Boise State, you can't cleanse spear damage, and they can just immediately one-shot him off the map. So I would not be shocked if GA is in his near future.
Yeah, you definitely can't cleanse spear damage. Yeah, it's tough to prevent any of that, aside from just fancy footing and sidestepping. So really having to put a lot of focus on positioning as well as attempting to get these picks from CU Boulder is really, really tough to do. And then when you got somebody like a Cassiopeia and Goblin to follow that up, we were talking about the lack of a front line. It's not really necessary with the amount of damage and the long-range poke that the Broncos are able to deal through. And Dean has kind of just been a damage soaker for the most part.
Yeah, that's been, that was his role on the Braum, and that's what kind of kept Boise State in the game, is they would just throw so many spells at that Braum. And, Alistar doesn't have the shield, but he's got the ultimate, and he's going to be as tanky as he can be, and he's also going to have some bonus CC. Meanwhile, Boise State, they're setting up for that first Ocean. Meanwhile, Ascent, he's going to get hit by the Shockwave. Carson's immediately going to Ragnarok there to stay alive, so they are going to take down Ascent. Hextech Ultimatum going to be used. Carson not going to have much luck with the Ragnarok falling. Spear is going to miss onto Addis. Flash away, and it looks like that Olaf might survive. Nope, Goblin was there, but Red Hots is going to pick it up. Meanwhile, split fight. One Tyler trying to do what he can. He has been CC'd, dashes over, and immediately gets eliminated. E-Thug has to run away, as he unfortunately was taking a ton of damage from Addis, but now the rest of the Broncos are here with reinforcements. It's a kill for Addis on Red Hots, who unfortunately just took the brunt of that ball damage, and now Boise State, that spear nearly hit Night Raven. So unfortunately with the Broncos, not the fight they wanted. They'll trade 2 for 2, but their jungler's alive, Carson is not, and Boise State might be able to take this first Ocean Dragon. We'll see if the Buffaloes want to contest.
Dean kind of trying to prepare for this in Ascent, doing that more so, having respawned and moved back in 2 for 2 on that fight. And a Dragon is something that the Broncos will definitely take, trying to get this mid tower as well. Ascent only had a couple autos left onto that one. Another recall stop, and what a great jump away there from E-Thug out of the Shockwave from Addis. That is an ultimate down.
And that is an Orianna down, as if you said fancy footwork can dodge a spear, you can't move. If you can't move, those spears are probably going to land. E-Thug's not going to miss.
Now there's enough CC available from the remainder of the team to get some sort of lockdown, whether it is a slow from the Ash, whether it is a Miasma or something from Ascent, or even the harder CC they're going to be getting from the pop-up from Dean there. really, really working very well together. And now 10, 1, and 3 is what Ethug is sitting at, looking to pad those stats some more as Boise State begins the invade of the base bottom inhibitor turret.
Yeah, they have the Rift Herald if they want to use it. Doesn't look like they're going to be forced to use it, as we do see a teleport coming out, and now the re-engage coming for CU Boulder. They're going to use the Ornhorn, flashed away by Ascent. Bronco's going to run right into Addis on that Orianna. Re-engage and a 3-man stun from Ascent. Boise State don't care. Orianna dies off screen, and the Broncos pick up 3, and they have more in their sights. One Tyler, you can block as many projectiles, it's not going to matter. That's an ace for Boise State, and with Rift Herald alive, this could be game.
What? Absolutely insane aggro swaps coming in there from all of Boise State. Shelly's gonna come out, finish up that inhibitor. Actually, no charge necessary on that one. She'll still go for it though, because she doesn't want to get taken down that far. It looks like Night Raven is gonna be the first one up, trying to prevent Boise State from ending this one.
They are going to take down Night Raven. Got a second charge. I think that the Heraldina did get taken down. No, she actually ended up picking it up before going down. So that is an exposed Nexus for Boise State at 21 minutes. There's a teleport available on Red Hots. There's nothing on the side of CU Boulder if they want to try to backdoor. And right now, Boise State sitting in a very, very comfortable position. They're up 11K, and it's one fight and done unless the Broncos choose for the backdoor route, but why would they? They are absolutely dominating every team fight.
And even if CU Boulder was looking for some kind of recourse on this, you're looking at 8 towers that the Broncos have over the 1 that the Buffaloes have. So even if they get pressure somewhere, it's just not going to be enough for them to close things out quickly enough. And with Carson having been shut down so hard, these fights are just way too difficult for the Buffaloes to make it through.
Fortunately for Boise State, the River Scuttle, the only thing stopping them from doing a sneaky Baron, which is something they tried to do a lot of times in game number 2.
That's the word.
Super minions pushing bot lane, so Orianna has to stay there. Addis doesn't have a teleport. So the Broncos can really do whatever they want here in the top side. They're going to just engage on the Baron regardless because they know Addis can't join the fight. And I'm not really sure the Buffaloes can do much. There's no blast cone available. There's no flash available for Carson. He has to steal with an undertow. He's CC'd. Blue team picks up the Baron. Now Boise State has their eyes on finishing the game. Night Raven going to stopwatch. He immediately gets taken down. Ethug smells blood in the water. A back going to come out from Addis. Red Hot's over the wall. Going to try and maybe land a Hextech ultimatum. Spear just missing. And Boise State, they get 1, and now they're going to shove mid with Baron.
Gotta give him a little more credit that that spear just dodged.
Yeah,
not
my
just
bad. Yeah.
missed.
Ethug wouldn't miss.
No, exactly. Yeah, it was dodged out. It was the perfect spear, as usual. Now Boise State, instead of running up that bottom lane, they're just gonna send Red Hot that way, empower those minions, and put some pressure on the mid side.
Tyler's
Red
got
Hot, maybe looking for something.
Yeah, here's the engage. Last chance for the Buffaloes. Red Hot's going to go for the back door, though. Nexus at half. He's going to dodge the shockwave. Now he's going to try and finish it off. He is dropping below 3rd HP. He will get shut down. Here come the rest of the members of Boise State. Carson, the first one to fall. The Broncos, we don't even need it to be a 5v4 Colorado. That's 2 down. Night Raven's going to be the next one to fall. Addis trying to do what he can. Boise State's going to wrap up the Buffaloes. And you said it, Jolly. Chat went wild when Samir got through, but it was the wrong one. It was that Nidalee that made it through, and that carried Boise State, and they're on to the next round.
Never again can we doubt these guys.
No.
Every time we point out something that we consider a flaw in their concept, that Olaf on the other team, he's going to get ahead, and you guys have one single tank. Not necessary. They just threw that back in our faces and showed us, hey, you know what? We got the Nidalee that didn't come through on the first 2 games. We got it this one, and that's all we needed to feed every lane, bottom lane and jungle in particular. Whew. Just so well played tonight.
And I mean, it's a testament to how strong Ethug is on just really any champion he wants. Is just a reminder, the Rocky Mountain Warfare Redux is coming your way November 6th and 7th. It's a Warzones Duos tournament. The first one was just awesome. I can't wait for this next one coming up in the first full weekend in November. If you want to get registered, you want to get in on the action, Idaho Army National Guard on any of their social media pages will do just that for you. And it's a ton of fun. And like I said, there was a ton of people last time who were like, oh, I didn't find somebody. I couldn't find a partner. Look, you've got plenty of time. Don't be that guy in chat who's like, can you have a third one? Because I couldn't get in on the first two. No, this is a lot of fun. You want to be there. And also, don't be that guy in chat who says, oh, Samir is through, it's over, because you forgot about that Nidalee. And let's just say Ethug said, I don't care about 200 years. I've got Nidalee, and she's good enough.
Yep, they felt confident in that. We can't doubt their confidence again. I feel like I've learned my lesson at this point. You'd think I would have done it with the game number 1, but clearly not the case. Really, really well fought, though. Valiant effort there by, it would be a lower seed being CU Boulder, but the Buffaloes did a great job sweeping that second game. It was a really exciting match, and then getting out to a game 3 is always more exciting for us. But I mean, I am stoked. I am stoked for what we've got coming up then. Boise State now moving forward. We'll eventually, I'm sure, have an updated bracket to show you guys, maybe not tonight because there's still games going through.
Yep.
But keep an eye on that because we're going to have a lot of exciting games in front of us. And there's the overall bracket. Obviously not quite yet updated, but it will be.
Yeah, the Broncos will play the winner of Purdue and Hawkeye Community College. Both of those, I think it's like a 17, 18 seed for both of those teams. And then Nevada, as we see, taking on NC State. Hopefully they'll maybe be able to jump in the chat and say that the Wolfpack advanced as well. They'll have a much tougher road than Boise State, as they would have potentially the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, UC Irvine, in the next round if the Anteaters are able to get past Minnesota. So the Wolfpack going to have a tougher road. Boise State looked a little bleak at times, but the Broncos prevail. And, I mean, those are the kind of games that you're going to have in tournaments like these. There's going to be teams that are lower seeded that give you a run for your money. And so for Boise State to come back in Game 3 and say, yeah, it's not. What do you mean? It's not even close. We're going to just run you down in 22 minutes. Huge way for the Broncos to wrap the night up and get their next game going, I believe, on Saturday.
And so exciting going into the follow-up games as well. These are all some amazing teams. And, we've gotten Boise State stayed undefeated. This is another continuation of that. They dropped around, but still have not lost a match so far.
Well, we'll get to the ICCU player of the game. I would be shocked if it's anyone but Ethug, because the work he did on that Nidalee was insane. And
in the overall as well. Of course, it's Ethug. You know what? I'm pretty sure you've gotten enough of these, Ethug. I don't want to be that guy, but, man, just overwhelming in terms of a presence on the map. And we're kind of at that point in the game where we say, one player can't really heavily carry. But when one player is always doing insanely well and communicating well with the other members, you've got that confidence and you've got somebody like that to back you up. You're going to be doing well as a team.
And, Ascent probably could have deserved it as well, especially his Game 1 play on Malphite. He probably single-handedly won that game with that 4-man alt bot lane. He played extremely well in the Cassiopeia as well. Can't forget about Red Hot's doing work on that Camille, especially in game number 3. But, it was all the Nidalee show for Ethug. He showed why it's been banned time and time again, despite it never being played on the stream. And he absolutely made CU Boulder pay, and it's what we talked about in the Open, Jolly. There's just so many champions Boise State can play. You cannot ban them all. Eventually, one's going to get through, and this time it was the Nidalee, and they said, all right, we'll just play the Nidalee. We're getting to the point where it's almost like maybe you should let the Rumble through because there's so many champions for Ethug you have to ban away that you almost maybe are considering that if you're a team going up against Boise State.
Oh, this is not a kiddie champion pool. This is like the deep end, got to show your ID to jump over there with the really scary diving board. And that's what it consistently ends up being. We have suggestions on the bans. Obviously, Ascent's Rumble is the number 1 that's gone through, but there's a reason that we saw Nidalee banned out the first 2 games. We're kind of questioning it. There was something behind that. We got to experience it in the last game. Likely not going to see it again very soon, though, as those pick bans are very, very heavy going into the Broncos in particular. Awesome. We've got an updated bracket. How cool.
Yeah, we see some of the games have started to fill out. So Boise State will be taking on Purdue this Saturday. Ohio State and UCF also advancing. And then we see UC Irvine has advanced past Minnesota, still waiting for the winner between NC State and Nevada. The Wolfpack, the second team in the Mountain West that got an invite for the conferences that did individual tournaments. The top two teams all advanced. So be really curious to see if the Wolfpack can get it done. Maybe they can give UC Irvine a run for their money. I know just, last Saturday we were anti-Nevada. We hated the Wolfpack, but now you got to root for them. You got to maybe say, hey, let's see if we can have an all-Mountain West semifinal or wherever these teams would end up meeting on the bracket, because it is 32 teams, so they're not as close as they may appear on the screen for meeting. But I would love to see the Wolfpack pull that upset, but it's really great to see Boise State. They know their opponent. It is going to be the Purdue Boilermakers, and I'm ready for that game on Saturday to see how Boise State prepares and who they're going to bring out this time, because they're always keeping us on our toes.
Oh, I'm always ready to watch and cast more Boise State playing League of Legends. Really anything, but man, this team this year has been something else, and I cannot wait because it is just the beginning of the season.
Yeah, once they finally figured things out about 2 or 3 games in that UCI Best Coast tournament, they have been on fire. As you mentioned, undefeated in this tournament. We are down to single elimination, no more double elimination like the Mountain West had. So unfortunately, one loss and your season is over. So Boise State's got to remain undefeated. As we said, they're a number 4 seed in the tournament, so they're expected to go very far, and I cannot wait to see that game this Saturday between Boise State and Purdue. Well, that will wrap things up for us tonight. If you're interested, tomorrow we'll have some Rocket League and Rainbow Six action coming your way for Fish and Jolly, everyone who had a really fun time in the chat, production as well. I'll say good night and enjoy these top 5 plays as we wrap everything up.
Here from Team Boulder.
Curtain call going to come out on to Dean. He'll take all 4 shots and stay alive. It's actually Night Raven who nearly goes down. Shield's going to expire. Ethug picks that one up. Carson now going to get hit by the volley. He is going to be slowed. Here comes Red Hots over the wall. Nice unstoppable force onto the Jin in the back line. And Boise State turns that 3-man gank into a 3-man kill of their own. I'm not sure that they even know he is there. Unfortunately, there's really no one they can capitalize on. Here it is. There's the flash. Double knock up onto one Tyler and Night Raven. Heal's not going to do anything for you, Karma. That's a double kill for Boise State. And Tice unfortunately tried to call in. That's a triple kill. Red Hot's probably going to miss. There's a double sleep time on the Night Raven and one Tyler. Cleanse is going to be used as well as a flat. Tech Deck ultimatum on the back line as the Tice goes down. Double knocker from the unstoppable force. One Tyler now flashing away. Carson dashes away. Red Hot's going to pick up one. He will lose his life in the process, but I don't think it's going to matter as Ethug's going to take down Night Raven. Lowell, the last one remaining. He's going to get death sentence out of tower range. He wants to take down Goblin. Going to flay them, and unfortunately there's no one there. Flash in, 4-man knockup from Ascent. 1 kill onto a Tice. One Tyler trying to run away, but he's going to right into Ethug. There's another kill picked up this time by Goblin. Nice flash over the wall onto Night Raven, who's got nothing. And Boise State a little bit slow on the rotation from Ascent, but he makes them pay with a flash. 4-man ult to right into an Addis on that Orianna. Re-engage in a 3-man stun from Ascent. Boise State don't care. Orianna dies off screen, and the Broncos pick up 3, and they have more in their sights. One Tyler, you can block as many projectiles, it's not going to matter. That's an ace for Boise State, and with Rift Herald alive, this could be game. Welcome back into the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. We are not quite done wrapping up the Broncos' 2-1 win over CU Boulders. It is now time for our post-game press conference with Doc Haskell. And Doc, let's just go back to CU Boulder, a very, very strong opponent for Boise State. Took him to the rope, but Boise State responded really, really well in game number 3.
They did. They were exactly as tough as we thought they were. The switches in the last game, Koba and the crew did a great job of just putting that together. It was nice win.
Saw we had the updated bracket there. The tournament does still run on Tuesdays and Saturdays for now. I know there might be a schedule change going down the line if Boise State keeps winning, but tell us a little bit about Purdue. Where are their strongest lanes, and what are we expecting in a matchup with the Boilermakers this Saturday?
Purdue's been on our radar since the beginning of the year. We thought there was an opportunity we might run into them at some point, the way it was organized, and they are really good. They've got a fantastic jungler. I think Ethug maybe has the advantage, and no one is ready for what Ascent's doing right now.
Yeah, Ascent has been incredible. And just, I mean, we talked about it during the game. I mean, there's a ton of big name schools, Alabama, Ohio State. I mean, what would success in a tournament like this mean for this Boise State League of Legends program?
Well, I mean, it would mean a ton for these players, especially for an opportunity to go as deep into this tournament as we can. And we want to make it every year, and we have in several years, but we've missed it before, and that's painful. So mostly it's an opportunity to continue a tradition and an expectation that we can be in this competition every year. And there's some great schools out there. We want to be numbered among them.
And then finally, let's get your thoughts. I know there's in football, there's different sides of the coins. Are we rooting for Nevada to do well, or do we want the Mountain West to be solely in the hands of Boise State going forward in this tournament? I know people are sometimes on opposite ends when they're not playing each other.
I'm always on the end of a Mountain West team. We love the Nevada guys until we face them, and then we hate them for a little while, and then we love them again. They're just great guys. All the Mountain West teams we like an awful lot. So I hope they do well.
Well, Doc, thank you for wrapping it up and putting a nice little bow on the Broncos' 2-1 victory over CU Boulder here in the College League of Legends Invitational in the first round, as we mentioned, this Saturday, Boise State and Purdue, to see if the Broncos can get down to the final 8 teams. Well, that will wrap up everything we have tonight. As I mentioned, 6 o'clock tomorrow will be Rocket League and then some Rainbow Six action later that night. But until then, have a very good night.